Find us on Facebook, email us at head2headpinball@gmail.com, or go to our website at head2headpinball.com.
Welcome everybody to the Head2Head Pinball Podcast. This is episode 41 and my name's Martin and with me...
It's Ryan C. Another special guest, Marty, today?
Oh, why not? Let's do it.
This guy has worked for Bally Williams. He has software programmed Stern's 2 best-selling games over an entire decade, and now he works at Jersey Jack as a programming lead. Ladies and gentlemen, Keith Johnson. How you going, Keith?
Good. How are you guys doing?
We are very good, mate. Really good to have you on.
Yeah, I just celebrated 20 years in the industry.
Wow.
At the end of March.
That's awesome.
Hard to believe.
How did you get into the industry?
How did I get into the industry? Well, back in the 90s, there was a lot of people hung out on IRC and Pound Pinball. And, including some industry people like Louis Koziars, Larry DeMar. And one day, this probably would have been late 97, Larry DeMar mentions that they're looking for programmers for slot machines. And I'm like, well, I'll be at Williams, that's like getting closer, So I was like, yeah, I might be interested. So Expo that year, I came up there and sort of interviewed. Like I guess it was an interview, but it wasn't like a real interview. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly how to describe it. I was like just going up there talking and see what it was like up there. And, I talked to Dwight Sullivan a long time, and he was working on Champion Pub at the time. And, quite a few other people, went out to lunch with them, and then went to Expo. I was like, yeah, let me see how my job's going at the start of the year, get my reviews, see if they, piss me off or not or whatever. And so, of course, the short story is that I got my review of my old job. I wasn't really satisfied, so I called Larry up, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I think I'd like to come over there. So he made me an offer, and, a few weeks later, I'm packing up all my bags and going to Williams.
So what were you at the time? Were you a programmer?
Yeah, I was a programmer. I worked at a company then it was called DataTel. It's called Elucia now or something. They made software for higher education systems, basically systems that would run like student systems and financial systems, all kinds of stuff for like colleges and whatnot. So I worked on a tools team there, which basically made the software that everyone else used to make the software that they sold. If that makes sense.
What year was this? Was this in like 98, 99 or?
I started Williams in March of 98. So yeah, I was at DataTel for the end of 96 to the start of 98.
So how does that transition into you working on, is it Revenge from Mars? Is that the first game or first and last game that you ever worked on?
Yeah, so I go over there to start on slots, obviously. The slots are in the same hall as all the pinball stuff, so I'm definitely around all the pinball stuff and all the pinball people and going to lunch with them and whatnot. And it was a really easy transition because I'd gone to enough shows and tournaments and stuff like that and hung out on RGP for however long I've been on there. It was really easy to go up there and, because I knew a bunch of people already. I rented a house with a couple other guys that, I'd known for a while. And it was just, it was probably about the easiest possible transition I could have had getting up there and, or coming up here, I should say, and, starting a new life and a new job. So I started at slots and was working on a couple of spinning reel slot machines. And about 6 months later, there was a massive reorganization where basically they told Larry to concentrate on pinball and not do spinning reel slots anymore. And that caused a big cataclysm in the company where, some people were let go, some people were moved around, and Lyman asked Larry to have me come over and work on Revenge from Mars, which I happily did. And so 6 months later, I'm working on pinball. And
so were you one of the people that was sort of locked away in the secret room working on that? Not even the Star Wars, but for that, before it actually got released. I mean, what I'm trying to know is how publicly available was what you were working on at the time?
Well, engineering is locked away in its own separate thing, and then the Star Wars project was a subset of engineering. So very few people, there's not that many people have access to engineering, a couple dozen or whatever, maybe more than that. But the Star Wars area was limited to like artists and, Cameron and Duncan and J-Pop and mechanical guys. And so it was, there's probably like not even 20 people that were allowed in the Star Wars area due to secrecy and all that stuff, including the CEO of the company, which was a very funny moment when he tried to get in there. It was very frustrated when he wouldn't be let in.
Now, you were I'm looking at your IFBA profile. Back in 1999, when you were working on Revenge from Mars, you were ranked 4th in the world at competitive pinball. Is that a product of the IFBA rankings being kind of quite new back then, or were you like a kick-ass player? And do you feel like it's deserved that you were in the top 5 pinball players in the world at that time?
Well, I don't know. It's funny. Ever since I've been up here, I've never really been able to travel to as much stuff as I'd want to. I like to compete more than I do, but I can't due to, mostly family reasons and stuff like that, job reasons, that kind of thing. So I don't know. I feel like I was okay. I mean, Bowen and I won a doubles tournament, Papa 5. I was top qualifier. The first tournament I went to, Papa 3 in 1993, New York City, I was top qualifier in B division. So, I wasn't a slouch. I was all right.
Okay.
I still feel like all right. Up until this last year, I had qualified in A division at Pinburg every single year. So, which the only other people who had done that were Elwin and Yorian. So I'll take that company.
And so how do you balance now playing in tournaments and coding? And we'll sort of obviously get to Pirates and sort of how much effort you need to put into that at the moment. So do you feel that you get to play enough?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the Chicago area league, so I play monthly there. There's other local tournaments around that it's hard to justify spending the time away from your family for pinball, several nights a month or whatever. So I don't get out and do it because, I got to see my kid and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When she gets older and more jaded, I'm sure I'll be getting out of the house more. Right now she's 5.5 and adorable, so, it's all good.
Do you have pinball machines at home?
Yeah, I have about 13 machines.
Oh.
Every game I was lead on, which would have been High Roller, Simpsons, Lord, Poker, Wheel of Fortune. What else?
Well, pin sizes, you have Blackwater 100.
I actually sold that to Terry at Pinball Life maybe about a year ago, and picked up a Comet.
Twilight Zone, Caveman, Cyclone.
Yeah, I sold the Caveman too. That would too.
You got to update your profile. Caveman.
I know. I'm sorry.
Wheel of Fortune. Are you the only person in the world that has the complete Wheel of Fortune with all the code done?
My Wheel of Fortune is just as complete as everyone else's.
So, where do we go? I mean, let's learn a little bit more about.
Actually, that's not even entirely true because there's some version. I'd started working on a version after Wheel of Fortune was done, and I had given it to Bowen to test because he had a Wheel of Fortune at the time, and as far as I know, he was the only one that had it. And then years later, it was when I was at Play Mechanics in between Stern and JJP. Someone asked me, for the IFPA code or something like that, and it was like, it's on my computer somewhere, go find it. I don't know where it is. And someone got instead of using the specific version I had burned for IFPA, 6 or whatever it was back then, they got the latest, and so some of the new features are in there to varying degrees of success. So there's a version out there that some people have that I don't even have, and so but it's not complete, but it's better.
Well, and so you're known. Again, I'm going to talk about it at some stage, but you're known for having very deep rule sets, and I think I've heard you say before that Wheel of Fortune you were probably a little bit dissatisfied with because you didn't really get to complete it. How much deeper was it going to get?
Well, obviously there would have been some wizard modes in there for doing that. There are a couple of more things that are supposed to be implemented from the game show. Like the game show has a jackpot round, so there's that wedge on the wheel. It's a jackpot, so that would have come into play. It basically would have, if you'd gotten it, you could have solved the puzzle right away and gotten more points, and it just would have gotten you through the round faster. There was also the 2 question mark spots where you could pick either, get $10,000 or bankrupt. That was going to get implemented. And round 4 was going to be a speed up round where you don't spin the wheel every time. You just, hit characters, and you spin the wheel once and hit characters and get letters. So the game was going to go a lot faster in terms of solving all the puzzles, I feel like. But right now, it's a real slog. Like, almost no one ever gets through all 4 puzzles. So
yeah,
you
could have also had like plunder 2 balls on there or something, right? Plunder opponent's score. So I mean, talking about deep rules, you've been quoted saying that you want people to have a good time playing your games, but if you have that 1 in a million kind of game, you can get to the super extreme mode, that wizard mode. That
that was always the point of it. Yeah. It wasn't to have a 2-hour grind, with your outlanes all the way closed, and just play till your arms fell off to get to the end. Yeah. I've said it before that. I played my Simpsons at a New Year's party that I was hosting and got to the final mode in under half an hour.
Wow.
So that's really, I played everything perfectly. And the last thing I had to do was get my 5th super jackpot. And that was how it was meant to be done.
Yeah. So have you been to all of them? Have you been to the Kiefer Invitational? Is that what you consider the hardest one?
Yes and no. It's the requirements on it can be kind of brutal, but you can also brute force your way to the end. I mean, in a lot of ways, Simpsons are hardest because to get to it, you have to win the modes that you're playing. So you have to get to Alien Invasion, but that's not good enough. You got to win it. That's no easy task. You got to win Springfield Mystery Spot, which is not easy either. So,
I mean, if you miss out on it, you have to go around the bend again, which is a bit of a...
Right, that's the problem that everyone keeps talking about. It's like, I got everything but Alien Invasion. Now I have to play all 7 modes again and start again. I was like, that's I get it, but that's not what was meant to happen, You're meant to be done at that point.
You're meant to play better.
Exactly.
So,
next time. Maybe next time you'll get the game of a lifetime.
So you've got that in your collection. So did you say no? You haven't been to the final wizard mode on that one?
I did all the requirements before I wrote the mode in my office, when I was working on it. So I consider that I have done enough to get there, but I have not officially gotten it on my machine since I've owned it.
That's a technicality, right? You got into it when it wasn't.
I think so. Yeah. But it's definitely possible. I mean, people say, "Oh, just play the game, play for change gears, and you'll get a lot of points." I mean, okay, you can do that, but there's a lot of ways to get a lot of points in that game that people just either haven't figured out yet, or don't care about, or whatever. I mean, anytime I see someone play and start no limit multi-ball and shoot the jackpot and just hit the center bank drop targets again, it's like, that's not how you play that multi-ball. It's you're not going to get the 25 million points you need by shooting the center drop targets. That's for sure.
Well, so that with with Code today, where you obviously do revisions, how is it that you can then, through your change of rules, condition people's behaviour to play the game that you want them to?
That's a good question. I've never thought about it in terms of...
Because that's ultimately what you're doing. When you're constructing, the framework around a rule set, in your mind you're thinking, well, this is how a player should play. But as you know, you're a competitive player, and there's others as well. They will find a way that is most lucrative.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you want to make it so that your features score more the deeper in you get, but not so much more that that's the only way to play the game. To go back to poker for a minute, it's like you can do pretty well, maybe 50 million, maybe more, and change gears. But if you play no limit multi-ball right, I mean, you can be shooting a 9x jackpot worth almost 3 million points, which is 27 million right there for one shot. So I don't know. I mean, it's, there are ways to do it. If people choose to figure it out and go for it. Get to super jackpots and ace in the hole multi-ball, which no one ever does. And then you're hitting the captive ball up there, fishtail style, for 1 million points a pop, which is pretty good too. There's always ways, and just, I guess people haven't put in the time necessarily to explore all the ways in all of my games, which, maybe that's on me for not saying, oh, hey, you should try this. I guess I figured people would experiment more, than just playing the game. But part of it is, poker had such a horrible stigma attached to it when it came out too, because of Mr. Gynecologist hands and the horrible art direction on the game and stuff like that. So it definitely got shunned as a result of all that when it first came out.
Yeah. And I know this is a question that I'm not sure if you'll like it, but what machine would you go back on if you had the chance to kind of tweak the rules, because you're no longer at the company, or you can't because you're busy doing other things? Is there a game that you've been involved with that you would like to change something specific to make it easier or harder? Wheel of Fortune's the obvious example. I wish that were done. Yeah. Here, obviously, the Hobbit's kind of a sore point, because it's like, we put a lot of crap into that game, and it wasn't what people are. People are expecting Lord of the Rings 2, or whatever. But I don't want to do the exact same game every time. If you want Lord of the Rings 2, you should be playing Wizard of Oz, because that's pretty much Lord of the Rings 2. In terms of where, how the Wicked Melt the Witch was laid out, how Somewhere Over the Rainbow is basically the equivalent of Valinor. Wizard of Oz is Lord of the Rings 2. So Hobbit was definitely not going to be anything like Lord of the Rings. Did you do that on purpose because you didn't have the Hobbit license at the time, and you thought, okay, this is my kind of sequel to one of my best games, software-wise?
Oh, Oz?
Yeah. Did you
Oz, I don't know, just everything in the... I was trying to figure out how I was going to make a game out of it at first, and then, I was like, well, if we do this, and maybe we can do something. It all came together pretty well in the end, really. Yeah. I was definitely not enthused about it at the start, but I definitely came around, and I'm pretty happy with where it turned out. With Hobbit, it was just, I didn't want to do the same game, but I did. Joe put in the drop targets in the game, so I knew we were going to be using those a lot and trying to showcase a lot of different ways to use the drop targets. So that's kind of how we went over the top and came up with the 31 mode idea and stuff like that. So, like, the whole point of the game is to give you an unprecedented breadth of playability, to just, some modes are shoot the shots, some modes are hit the drop target, some modes are hit the beast, some are all three. It's like there's so much different stuff to do in that game, and yet I get complaints that oh, I get to Battle of Five Armies and that's it.
That's me. That's
I always play the One Ring to get there. I don't play any of the other modes to get to the end. So it's
I mean, what do you think about that? Because that's that's something that I would say, because for me, I want everything in my game to mean something. Especially, like, as I said, your Simpsons, your Lord of the Rings, and your Wizard of Oz. Everything that that you do in there is building up to that ultimate thing that you might get to one day. But with The Hobbit, you're doing it to go around in a circle.
Yeah, so in a lot of ways, Hobbit I consider to be Wheel of Fortune 2.0, because the whole setup of the wizard mode thing is pretty much exactly what was in Wheel of Fortune, right? So Wheel of Fortune was, I think it had win 4 puzzles, get a super jackpot, and I don't remember what the third one was off the top of my head. Oh, win a mode or something like that. So if you did those 3 things, then one of the wizard modes would light. So we took that concept of the multiple things to get to a wizard mode. In Hobbit's case, it was 5 instead of 3. And, we're just like, here's what you do to get through the game. Do these 5 things, you'll play a wizard mode, and it'll be a different one each time the further you get in the game and all that stuff. So that was always the intention of the games, to play it, to get to Battle of the Five Armies and, get through that multi-ball, which, by the way, has 7 stages. Those multi-balls are no slouches, because the first one, Into the Fire, that has like 5 stages to it, and each of those stages is, at least, if not more complicated than most of the modes in the game. Then Barrel Escape has 3 or 4, I think it is, similar. And then Battle of the Five Armies has 7. And again, those are like, I mean, you could say the game has, like, if you count each of those stages as a mode, which I would consider them in terms of writing it to be at that level, you could say it has over 40 modes in the game, which is pretty insane. But, people didn't like the variety like I thought they would. They just wanted to get to the end. And, maybe that was on me for not,
Well, I guess you've set like a precedent, like the Keith Johnson games, the Journey games. Let's have these really deep games that, like I've bought a lot of your games that you've been involved with, and I haven't sold any of them because I feel like I have unfinished business with it, and The Hobbit's the only one that's kind of like left my house, and that's on site. Waiting for that kind of final wizard mode. So you have mentioned before, I'm pretty sure it's been public, that you do plan on making the end, and I believe it's called There and Back Again, because it's sitting there in the code folder. No one can kind of access the files. You guys have encrypted it. So can you talk a little bit about what the roadmap is to get there, and what There and Back will possibly include?
I don't want to give away too much. There and Back Again is mostly going to concentrate on being the end of the 31 modes, I think. I don't know that it's going to tie all the things together, but there will be an end if you get through all 31 modes. So that will happen. Because that was always intended to be the end of the modes, but I don't know. Like, what do you do after you do There and Back Again and you do the Battle of the Five Armies? I mean, Bilbo's auction. What kind of fun is that going to be? It's like
the opening credits to Lord of the Rings, maybe.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think people are that nitpicky that they'll say, this mode has nothing to do with the finality of the movie, compared to Valinor. I guess people just want to play for a purpose. If they're going to invest half an hour of their time or however long it takes, each time they try and get to it, they want it to be that kind of adventure.
I can respect that, and there'll be a purpose to that after the next release. And we'll make scoring tweaks to a lot of the stuff too. There's Joe Katz is already, as of today, rewriting Beast Multiball because it's, it could be a lot better than it is. And we'll make the super jackpots easier to get to, so you can get rid of it if you can't kill Smog because Beast Multiball is running. Wah.
There already is that, right? There's if you get a super jackpot, you press that button.
That's in there, but admittedly, it is really, really hard to get the super jackpot in Beast Multiball right now.
What is it? Is it like 20 jackpots or something, or what is it?
I don't know. There's like 16 waves. It was written by a guy. It was basically the first thing he wrote when he came on board, JT Harkey, and so I did something for Expo, and I was like, kind of take the idea from here, but do your own thing with it. And he did a good job, with what he was told to do. Didn't fully understand the intricacies of things like pinball scoring at the time and stuff like that. I mean, he was a game player, but he wasn't necessarily a pinball player. He gets it way more now that he's been here for 2.5 years, I guess. And so it's being rewritten. It'll be a lot better now.
Well, so that's what I was talking about before, Keith. Is that when you're looking at rules, are you thinking about how people are going to play the game, or are you just in your mind setting out the framework of the rules? And part two to that is thinking about now how Hobbit has actually been played versus what you thought people would play. Will that be considered how you're actually now going to change people's behaviour, or is it now just tying it up, cleaning up some of the modes, obviously like Beast Multiball, and putting a wizard mode on the end?
We'll change the behavior somewhat. So one of the things we're doing is basically assigning a number of stars to each mode, 1 to 5 stars. So that the number of stars that you complete before starting a final mode will work into some kind of bonus. And then the highest star mode that you beat will affect the scoring of the next wizard mode that you play. So if you beat a 3-star average mode, then the next mode you start, into the fire or whatever, will score the same as it does now. If you played a 4-star mode to win it, then the scoring will be doubled. And if you played a 5-star mode, then the scoring will be quadrupled. So the points will go way up potentially in the wizard modes. But if you play a 2-star mode, the scoring's cut in half. If you play a 1-star mode, hello the One Ring, then the scores will be cut in 1/4.
No, so, my strategy's gone.
So
just playing the One Ring and getting
scores your scores will plummet if you continue playing the wizard modes that way.
Okay, wow. So lots of scoring opportunities there. So just a quick, most of your games have no ball save by default. Where did that originate from? Obviously, that's something that you like. Is that being in
ball save is confusing to casuals. It's you could go if you ever went in the 90s and watched people play games at a location. People would lose the ball and they'd walk away if they managed to figure out how to start multiple people. Then they would walk away and the next person would come up and it'd say ball save, and then the other guy would be playing the ball. It always just didn't work out that well. And then there's if you bring like the Josh Sharp types into it, like, oh yeah, he said the ball save for 5 seconds and I drained to 4.9 and I drained to 5.1 and he drained to 4.9. He definitely deserved the ball back more than I do. So it's the fairness didn't weigh into it as much as the fact that ball saver is just confusing to people. So, I'll happily put it in as an option and people can turn it on if they want, but I don't get it personally.
Well, it absolutely killed me last night in the tournament when I was on Simpsons, so I just wanted to put that out there. Thanks.
Well, plunge better, I guess.
or have a better layout. That's all I'm saying. But
Oh,
no, but we're just on that. So
That's not on me too much, so
no, I know.
whatever.
and it was my really flimsy attempt at a segue. So, you've obviously worked with Joe Bowser layouts. How's that been? Because they are, unconventional is probably a way that I'll describe them. How's that been, looking at an unconventional layout and then having to do a rule set to it?
It's been fun. I like different play fields. I mean, I think the only real, Hobbit was kind of one. Like before Hobbit, the only fan I really worked on was Wheel of Fortune, and even people, even though that was a fan, no one really thought of it as a fan because the bottom was so different.
Yeah,
like people were so, tranced or hypnotized by the bottom of the playfield, like it never got called out for being a fan, which is exactly what that game is. If it had a standard bottom, people would be like, "Oh God, it's another fan." You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I mean, I like working on games that are different and offer different, combos or different, ways to do things and stuff like that. I mean, certainly.
The one of the biggest designers that kind of has repeated layouts, I guess, is Steve Ritchie. And the only time that you kind of work with him is when he went out and did something totally different than anything else he's ever done, right?
I know. That was awesome, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, what do you think it'd be harder if you got something like a Stern Star Trek, for example, or a Spider-Man, which has almost like an identical kind of layout? Obviously, they play different because of the rules. Would you like an opportunity to work on something that simple? I really hate saying the word.
Well,
simple,
I guess I did have that opportunity. Now that I think about it, and that was Lord. Lord is a fan through and through. That's pretty much it. And Lord was at the time my attempt at showing people what a fan game could be, despite the fact it was a fan. And I feel like it did a pretty good job at that. It's, mostly the ring combo system was written, just to exploit the flow of the game. But I'll give everyone a secret. The reason fan playfields can work more than other fan playfields can work is if the shots do more interesting things. So on Lord, almost every shot can do at least two different things with the ball, with like the exception of the left ramp, right? That's just a ramp. It comes back to you. That's it. But the left orbit has a diverter, or it goes into a saucer. The center loop can be diverted to the tower, or it can go around. The right ramp can be locked or pass through or whatever. The right orbit can be diverted or something. So having diverters in games is a good thing and makes the gameplay way more interesting if the ball is not doing the same thing every time or always coming back to your face or whatever.
100%. And like you said before, there's that ring combo. Is that you're talking about like building up to ring frenzy, or are you talking about?
Just collecting the rings, because getting 9 rings of men to get Gollum is a bit of a slog, but if you do it combo wise, you can do it in 5 shots too. So it's like, it was just. At the time the game was made, way before, 8 zillion other fan playfields have come out since then. I think it was a breath of fresh air fan wise, in my opinion. It wasn't just shoot the same shot 3 times in a row and something happens. Because casuals can't do that, by the way. Casuals shoot each shot once a game, and it's even less, the more to the outside you get. Like on Hobbit, for example, a casual will shoot an orbit on Hobbit once every 2 games.
Yeah.
So, it's a little bit better on Lord orbits, but, people have to be entertained. Something's got to happen to them when they shoot a shot, like right away, or they're not going to keep playing.
So what do you think about kind of the current climate and public acceptance of more complex rules at the moment versus something simple like you see TNA coming out at the moment, and let's ignore kind of the sales because they're public, and JJP sales aren't public and Stern sales aren't public, but kind of like the public acceptance of Total Nuclear Annihilation versus Pirates of the Caribbean, that people kind of say, oh, have they made it too complex? Are there too many options at the start of the game? How do you juggle that? Because obviously there's still a simple game, there to be played by the casual. How do you manage kind of not overwhelming the player with too many options?
Well, I will admit that Pirates is a little bit of a risk with the character thing, but if people don't have to pay attention to it if they don't want to. I mean, if a casual comes up and hits start and plunges the ball, they'll get who they get, and they'll play the game. They won't know any better. I feel like games have to have a lot to do and a lot to learn and stuff like that to justify their cost. I mean, we're selling games at $8,500 minimum right now. So if you get a game and you're done with it in 2 weeks, it's like what you're just be sitting there. It's like, I just paid $8,500 for this, and I am bored AF of it right now. Yeah. So I don't think you can do that. At least that's always been my philosophy with, driving rule design at JJP, certainly. So
how do you juggle that, I guess, between, you're making a pinball machine for everyone, which, just putting it out there, I think that you guys, like the programming guys, have the hardest job in the business. And I'm sure other people that work around you might disagree. But, without the software and the balancing and every little thing that you have to do, the game sucks. We can see that with some games that might have, amazing art, great flow, great layout. But if the software sucks and the game isn't fun to play, so how hard is it to juggle that? How hard is it to make a game for everyone? The people that are paying $8,500 for the lowest model, and the people that are putting a couple of quarters in on site to get their 3 minutes of fun.
So this takes me back to when I listened to Bowen on your show, and how Bowen said, the game was made for him.
We're talking about Simpsons Pinball Party here, right?
Yeah, Simpsons Pinball Party. So in a lot of ways, he's right. The game was made for him. Well, it was made for me, which happens to be for him too, I guess. So it was always pounded in my head that the casuals don't see lights. They don't know what they mean. They don't know what they're referring to. So, the game's got to be, mechanical action pinball and, that kind of thing. So that game has some stuff in it, right? So you hit the garage door, it opens, you go in there, you go at the upper playfield. That's the center bash shot of the game. And it's very obvious what happens when you do that. So you have that, every time you shoot a shot on the game, something entertaining happens. A funny quote by one of the actual people, in the show gets said. Hopefully you get lucky enough and luck into Itchy and Scratchy before, you're out of your game. And, that should be pretty good for 3 minutes of fun for someone. They hit a shot. It says something funny. They probably don't really do any of the rules, but, I hate to say it, they weren't going to do any of the rules anyway. So it didn't matter whether, if they started a mode where auto was, then they'd be doing something else and they wouldn't get it. They wouldn't understand it. I think in a lot of ways it would just confuse them even more. So, that game in particular would not have sold anywhere near as well as it sold if it wasn't entertaining to casuals, because the vast majority of the market back then was to operators. So, I don't know that operators necessarily kept buying all the reruns later in life, but, that game has probably cleared 7,000 units, and it wasn't because, it was an expert pinball set. It's because it was entertaining to the casual people who put money into it on location. It just so happened I exploited that fact, and made a really good pinball rule game out of it, because it's like, well, if I could say screw the casual player, as long as it flashes some lights every now and again, which, by the way, I think it has a pretty good light show, then they'll be entertained. And I think that's why that game worked out as well as it did.
So I was at a tournament last night, and there was just about 30 people there, and because I knew you were coming on today, I thought I'd ask everybody that was playing, what do they know about Simpsons Pinball Party rules? And I think I probably spoke to about maybe 12 people, and 2 people kind of understood it. The rest said, I think I head into the garage and then I've got to hit the ball up on that upper ramp and maybe that starts multi-ball. So, and these aren't, I guess that they're probably not your elite players. Sorry guys for calling it out. But they're people that have been playing in comps for, 2-3 years. So I guess my question to that post comment is, how do you know that the GP, the general public coming up to it, really do understand what's going on beyond the rule card?
Sorry, just before you answer, Keith, if you're playing tournaments for 2 or 3 years and you don't know how to start multi-ball on Simpsons, then you're a fucking shit tournament player. What the hell?
Well, don't forget, though, that game's been out for 15 years now. If they started playing 2 years ago, that game's been out for a dozen years, and it's like, they may not have even seen it that much.
Yeah, we don't actually, to be honest, we don't actually really have them that often in public in Australia.
Right. So I could totally expect that a lot of people at this point in its history would necessarily be very familiar with it. If you played it when it came out, it was pretty well revered when it came out. A lot of people put a lot of time into it. Bowen had his for a long time. I know he just sold it, but, he had it for a pretty good number of years. And, I'll take that longevity of a game. It means it had good value. And that's what, we try to do, and sell games to people.
So do you get frustrated, because I certainly do, when people not refuse, but people kind of they might put a stigma or something on your game saying, oh, it's too complex and I don't understand. Whereas something that's kind of equally as complex, like, for example, maybe The Walking Dead, people don't say the same thing. Whereas, I still don't know how to play that game, and a lot of my friends don't, for the right strategies. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that some games are equally as complex as your games, but people don't see them as complex?
That's an excellent question. I have to wonder if, like, watching videos of games doesn't go a long way to helping that out. Honestly, I feel Walking Dead is one of the least understandable games there is. Sure, you get that you have to hit the prison doors and the well walker and start those things, but that's not going to help you understand the best way to play CDC. I know the best way to play CDC because I've played it a lot of times, and I've watched a video on it and stuff like that. So, for an expert, or for an above average to expert level player, it's an amazing game. It does have great rules to it. And I'm thinking that it doesn't. I'm thinking that since people get to watch it now and get tutorials from Bowen and stuff like that, it makes it a lot more palatable to see games like that. There was certainly no tutorials for Lord of the Rings when it came out, but it was a great package, and I think that went a long way towards that game's longevity. Just that it did the movies really well. It sounded like the movies. It had voice work for the movies and all that stuff. So
do you think it's better off, like you kind of touched on it when you started answering the question, do you think it's better off not explaining the rules when you present the game, or do you think, like, how much information do you tell the general public before you stop talking to ensure that they're not saying, oh, this is too much for me, my brain can't handle all of this?
I don't know. What we try to do is tell the people what they need to do next, right? So you do something and it's like, okay, now go over here or shoot this target or hit this beast or whatever. I mean, doing that is good. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's like with poker. I thought people would experiment more and learn it better. But, so for whatever reason, people have done that with The Walking Dead, which they didn't do with poker. And part of that could just be the enjoyability of the game and the theme. Like The Walking Dead, appeals to a lot of people. So it's going to get a lot of eyeballs just because, it's a really good attraction factor. And, as long as it's entertaining enough, people will play it and keep doing it. So Lord certainly had that going for it. It brought people to it like crazy. And it sounded really good for the time and, played pretty well. And so people spent a lot of time on that game figuring it out eventually.
Well, let's touch a bit on your time at Stern. I guess we're not really going through things chronologically here, but the first question, I guess, is what is Gary Rogg? It's your Pinside avatar, I believe. Do you want to explain that?
So, Lord of the Rings is if everyone was around and omniscient and understood everything that was going on at the time, like I was really close to walking out the door during that game because I was just been pissed off so many times, during its development, and obviously I stuck through and stayed there and stuff like that, but I was forced to do a lot of things in the game that I didn't agree with, like the Bash Balrog mode, for casuals, so that they could see the Balrog come out. It's like back then Gary was on and it may still be, I'm not sure, but he was in a state where, I'm paying $25, $50 for a toy in this game, and I don't get to see it all the time. I got to see the toy every game. So that's why Bash Balrog came about, so that, you just happen to fall in that saucer 3 times, which is you're pretty much going to do, then it'll come out and you'll get to hit the Balrog and you get to see him. A lot of us did not agree with that philosophy in general. I mean, typically, like back in the 90s, for when games had, some modes and a main multi-ball, the theory was that you want them to get multi-ball 1 in every 3 games. And that was enough of a carrot, to keep people coming back playing the game. And I'm assuming that was accurate because those games earned pretty well back then. So, I'm sure they were onto something. So having the game advance you towards Fellowship of the Ring and, maybe getting that once every 3 games, I thought that was sufficient. But, it wasn't sufficient for Gary. So there was that. There was like the tower in the upper right, Barad-dûr. As I always thought it was just going to fall down during, winning Destroy the Ring, which is obviously out there, but it's by an above average person, it was pretty doable. So when you went in there, it'd shake the tower a little bit. It's like, I need to see it fall. I paid $25 for the tower, I gotta see it fall. So I put in the thing, for the tower bonus, and it falls whenever you get the tower bonus. So I was like, whatever. Did you get to see it fall?
Don't you kind of agree with what Gary's saying? Because you can see people complaining nonstop about, say, the new Star Wars, where no one gets to see the Death Star blow up because no one can do it. Can you kind of understand the whole, casual players wanting to see some wow factor, like the whole Balrog thing? I agree. I don't go for Balrog when he comes out. I don't think it's worth the 500,000 points every time you hit him for a shot that doesn't come back. But when my wife's playing and Balrog comes out, she thinks she's done something special, and her eyes kind of light up, and I say, hit the Balrogs, so you can, and she thinks she's getting jackpots or something, right?
Yeah, it's a way to look at it. Another way to look at it is, oh God, I really want to see what that thing does, so I'll keep putting money into it until I get to see it come out, and they'll be like, oh man, that'll be awesome. if you give everything away to everybody up front, then it's like, okay, I saw it. I don't need to play it again.
Yeah. As I said, it's that balance.
And back then, you're writing code for games to be played, on location. So it's more necessary to keep the carrot out there, I feel like, than giving away the farm every time.
How did you manage doing? I mean, Simpsons and Lord of the Rings were, I believe, both released in the same year, and I guess some people consider them as some of the best rule sets out there. Very tight, no real scoring exploits. Why is it possible for that to happen? But games now have a longer development cycle. And,
Simpsons was worked on for a really long time. Like I had over a year to program that game.
Yeah,
it was supposed to come out after Playboy. Excuse me, and instead, Roller Coaster Tycoon was put in front of it in order to catch the summer season, which made a lot of sense. Plus, Joe had left, and the project was in shambles a little bit from a mechanical perspective. So I had to get some people working on shoring up the mechanicals in the game, so it was cheaper and buildable and more reliable and that kind of thing. So I wound up with even more time to work on the game, just kind of as a fluke. So just more stuff kept going in the game. So when Simpsons was done, they had a lot of content, a lot of different stuff to do, and it was a victim of fortune, I guess you would say. Yeah. So then along comes Lord of the Rings, and the goal is to get that game out there for the movie, which I think it did barely. So I knew that I wouldn't have anywhere near the time to work on it like Simpsons did, like I did with Simpsons. So I approached the rule set. And for around that time, I've been playing Jackpot a lot, I think, and, probably some other stuff. And I really liked the idea in Jackpot where, you had a multi-ball that had a long-ass goal to it, a lot like World Cup Soccer did. And, get 15 jackpots, and then you get to go to Megavisor, and then complete Megavisor, and you get to go for Mega Jackpots. I like that idea of a multi-ball that was long, and you didn't necessarily have to do all at once. So that's why the multi-balls in Lord of the Rings are kind of like, it was like adding artificial depth in a way. It's like, it's only each of them only really has one rule, but it's kind of, in a way, I guess you'd call it work, but hopefully it's entertaining enough. It doesn't feel like work.
Well, it's the payoff, right? The payoff is a gift from the elves and
super jackpot.
Super jackpot, ha 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 ha. Like people want to hear that.
Right. So we have those that were always designed from the very beginning to be long and needing to be done a couple times. Just to push the game, just to make the game feel like it's deeper than maybe it necessarily is.
So they're obviously very high-profile games and high-profile themes. So I would say that would be fun to work on, particularly Lord of the Rings. I think everyone loved that at the time. It was very fresh. Simpsons had been around for a while. But let's just say you also didn't necessarily have some other great licenses to work with. So how do you go from, working with something great like that to, arguably, Wheel of Fortune, I'd say, wasn't necessarily great. CSI, not so great.
Well, yeah, that was definitely... So the way Wheel of Fortune came about is, so some people at Stern hung out in bars, and they saw that in the bars, Wheel of Fortune was on muted. And, people would be sitting there at the bar drinking, I guess, watching Wheel of Fortune. So because a couple of bars around Melrose Park, Illinois were like that, it was like, oh, Wheel of Fortune is a great bar game. We got to do it. And we'll sell them to everyone. So that was the genesis of Wheel of Fortune. And,
And
like I
CSI
watched it.
and
I
24
actually
was
watched
always
the
on
show.
TV.
I liked Wheel of Fortune. I actually watched it myself, but
Were you approaching these licenses to get them, or were they coming to Stern at the time?
well, I was told to work on Wheel of Fortune and CSI and stuff like that. It wasn't
Right.
It wasn't the stuff that I wanted to work on. But
even World Poker Tour, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure at the time, 2006, it had gone through a bit of a renaissance, certainly with, the TV rights to it as well. But still...
right, well, poker was... I really did want to work on poker because, I liked poker. I played poker. I actually watched WPT before we were thinking about it. And it was like we wanted to do like a classic poker game or whatever, and we were trying to come up with a theme that fit it, and so we came up with World Poker Tour. But I would say we probably missed the boat on it by a year. It definitely started losing popularity. Like I can't remember exactly when, the day that the U.S. government shut down online poker, but I think it was around that time, and I think we missed the boat on poker popularity by about a year.
Well, then, Family Guy for us, I think, is a great license, but that didn't really do all that well. What's the story there?
I think it did better than most people think. So, it started off at they released whatever they released. I don't know if it was like they probably released 1,500 games or something like that. And then they had built somewhere around 900 of them or something, and it was petering out. And everyone was like, oh, God, what are we going to do with all these parts? Kind of like when they had Striker Extreme back in the day and they turned it into NFL. So that's when, like, okay, we'll unload all these parts by making Shrek, which ironically may have been a Jersey Jack idea. And so they started working on Shrek and, turning the game into Shrek. And then a funny thing happened. The game had been out there for a while, and everyone found out it was a good game and earned really well. And then they made up the rest of the 1,500 games, plus, quite a few more. I don't know what the final number is on it off the top of my head, but, they made a lot of Family Guys, and then they had to buy even more to actually make Shrek, which they'd already put the time and money into. So it's like, and bought the license. So it's like, well, we still got to do Shrek. So,
fail.
it's kind of funny how it all worked out, but there are definitely, Family Guy definitely did pretty well. I mean, it was well received in the end.
Well, then to round out the Stern era, what would it be the game that you've worked on that you'd be most proud of, and the inverse of that? What do you think? Maybe not so good.
Of games that I had anything to do with, well, I always tell people Simpsons is my favorite because just the variety of stuff that you can do in it, and the carrot at the end and all that kind of stuff. I think it's a really good game, a really good play field, and it's my favorite thing to do in terms of my favorite thing to play in terms of variety of modes from the Stern era. So obviously I'm most disappointed on my games, the Wheel of Fortune, but having been involved with the likes of CSI and Indiana Jones and stuff like that, I mean, it's a real toss-up. I think Indiana Jones is a far, far, far worse game than pretty much anything else. So the fact that my name is technically listed on there, is definitely a bummer.
What was the, because obviously you end up departing Stern. I guess they were going through tough times, and you were quoted.
Yeah, they laid off half the company.
Yeah. I mean, you were quoted in saying that you kind of already started looking for jobs anyway because of kind of the general feeling there. So, I mean, what was it like working on Indiana Jones, for example, and was the error in the layout, or was it in the toys that were on there to create the software? Because I've only played it a couple of times, but I guess the joke on everyone out there is that it's the one that the Indiana Jones that isn't good. Which one are you talking about, the good one or the not good one?
Yeah, I mean the layout's probably okay. It wasn't anything special. I mean, I would mostly view it as I think it's pretty much exactly Harley Davidson, if I'm not mistaken. They're really extremely close to it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ark was a cool toy, you know. And, you know, there were so many really weird decisions that went into that game that elude me to this day, that I don't know why they're like that. Like your first multi-ball is 8-ball. Yeah, your first multi-ball is 8-ball multi-ball. Then your next one's 5. Then your next one's 4, and the last one's 2. And it's like, you know, you have to hit the freaking middle of the game, like, you know, 8,000 times to spell Raiders of the Lost Ark. You know how many ever freaking hits that is, and you get a 2-ball multi-ball. It's like, what the hell is this? I mean, that's no fun. Like, I just, you know, worked my ass off to get to the end of this thing, and my payoff is a 2-ball multi-ball that's over in like 20 seconds, and I'm just like, you know.
Well, it is, that game in particular gets derided by a lot of people, but you, with your software hat on, do you think that layout and what there is salvageable with the eyes that you've got on today's games?
I guess. I mean, there's way more that could have been done with that game that would have been far more interesting, I'm sure. I mean, like the targets around the Ark, you know, they don't do anything, you know, they're just there. The Indy Jones rule, you know, what is that? I mean, it's literally ripped from Spider-Man, and all it does is score some points. It doesn't do anything for you. You know, it just, the whole game is just a mishmash of bad ideas, and, you know, just makes you feel bad when you play it because it's just unrewarding. And
but did you just have to implement what was there, or did you get a say on what it would be?
No, I was not the lead on the game, so I was just helping out, you know.
Yeah.
Writing code. I mean, yeah, I wrote like the bumper rule, the bonus rule, I did a lot of help work with like making it easier for the other guys who are programming the display effects to turn the game into a VCR, so you could watch all the bad movies you can't tell what's going on. So I helped those guys out a lot with, you know, some internal code, but, you know, that you know, you could tell the soul was getting sucked out of them every day they were working on it.
Was that the, you know, as I said, Stone was going through a lot of, you know, that was when pinball was possibly at its, well, I'm not sure when it was at its kind of lowest during the last decade, but I guess when they laid off everyone, including you, you know, that might have been the point. So then you had a couple of years break, I guess, from pinball, and then how did you end up working at Jersey Jack? Because you became, I guess, the programming lead there. So did Jack?
I was the only programmer. Yeah.
The only programmer. Yeah. That still makes you the lead technically.
Yeah. Take it.
What? So Jack, when did Jack contact you?
Let's see. So he would have done his thing on, or released it on January 1st, 2011, as I recall. And I remember, based on how I thought everything was at the time, I remember posting to RGP that, you know, if anyone's going to make a go out of this, it's going to be Jack. And, you know, he's probably the only person that could make this successful or whatever, you know, based on, you know, being an ELOUT and, you know, having sold so many games over the years and having some clue as to what games are. So, and when I was talking with them about possibly going there, where I was at the time, Play Mechanics, like, you know, as you know, 2008 was a really bad time for the economy. And so, I definitely took Play Mechanics, the job, out of, I wouldn't say desperation per se, but as like, you know what, here's a job, you know, it's going to be what it is. And, you know, at least I'll have a freaking job. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was there, and I actually talked to Stern the summer before, like summer of 2010, you know, went over there and interviewed, met Dave Peterson and all that stuff. And I was talking with them to go back there because Lyman had left to go work at Williams for however long. And but it wasn't that long, probably like 6 months or something, 9 months. And so I was itching to get out of play mechanics because I didn't like the work and, the pay wasn't that good. So when Jack came, the Stern thing obviously fell through. And when Jack came knocking, the risk reward for going to Jersey Jack versus staying at play mechanics was essentially infinite. So it made absolutely no sense not to go there. So, basically he said what he wanted to do, who he had working for him. And I was like, well, play mechanics, sucks. So yeah, I'll go there. No problem.
So when you got there, we obviously know it today as Wizard of Oz. What sort of state was the project in at the time you started?
We had a meeting probably, some weekend, I think I'd already given my notice. So I think it was like the first week of my notice. We had a meeting in Rosemont and everyone gathered there. And Joe hadn't designed what was the final playfield. He had a couple of designs sitting around that, he was thinking about. And we talked about what we wanted the game to be. And then he went and drew basically what the playfield wound up being. There was basically nothing done, at the time of that first meeting. So
what do you start coding then? Or is that really you're still in conceptual stage of doing the rules framework? Or are you then trying to work with assets?
I have to do the system framework. So
wow, okay.
So I have to do things like, is it a 1 or 4 player game? I have to have balls in play and they have to drain and they have to go to the next player. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. You have to write an audit system, an adjustment system. It's all kinds of work that has to be done to make a pinball system that is not glamorous and not fun, but it's pinball and you're going to write it. It's going to be there for the rest of the company's life. So you got to do it right and do a good job on it.
And so how long did that take?
I don't know. We finally released the game after 2.5 years or something like that. And even then, all the game code wasn't done.
Just to build the operating framework.
Well, it's hard to say. So what happened along the way is that, we started getting hardware. So instead of working on, the game code framework, I'd spent some time getting the hardware to work, like writing device drivers for Linux and stuff like that. So that would come along and, I'd do that stuff and, talk with the hardware guy and, work out why the board's not operating like it should be. So all that was going on. And then, we had to, when we did the E3 / Seattle show weekend, I put all the code to the side that was like the framework for the game and wrote a whole other thing that basically made the lights work and made the coils work and that kind of thing. And I don't know, for a good 6 months as the game was traveling from show to show, I was like maintaining 2 sets of code. One was the show code, the dog and pony code, and the other code is the code I was trying to make, be the real game code. And so that was kind of a hair puller for a long time. Plus my wife and I were in the process of adopting our child and, there was all kinds of things going on. It was just like, I don't need all of this going on right now, but here I am. And,
it's a hard work, right? Like running the entire framework and creating it for a pinball machine that's kind of meant to be testing the limits of what pinball was at that time. I'm guessing that was quite a challenge to get across. And, I guess there was no other company to kind of rip it off as someone else has done in the industry recently and kind of thrown their hands up in the air. But Wizard of Oz, amazing machine, and then you moved on to Pirates, and we've already talked about that. The next game, which I guess as the programming lead, is Dialed In, and I guess you weren't executing the rules, but you were part of writing the framework with Ted. Is that right?
I was really more of a manager / advisor on that project. I mean, Ted's the lead of Dialed In, so that game, is credited mostly to him and Joe and JT in terms of what's in it. I mean, I helped them out with a couple technical things, and I wrote Skill Shot for them because they were busy with some other stuff. So, my involvement in the game, like I would give them ideas and tell them what I would do in certain cases, and sometimes they'd listen to me and sometimes they wouldn't. Which is fine. I mean, one person can't be in charge of everything because then there's no variety. Like I try to make every game I work on different, but no matter what, if it's just one person, it's going to feel similar all the time. I feel like, and not just from copying and pasting rules from game to game, just how games are thought of or how things work a certain way or whatever, is just going to feel the same.
So, I guess the hot topic at the moment, with Pirates of the Caribbean, is the 3 spinning discs. Now, obviously, the decision wasn't made, last week about that because the disc never stopped. Right, you guys have been streaming it for a while. The
decision was pretty much made after the last stream, so that's why we didn't stream for a while.
Yeah. So you're in charge of the programming for that machine. So was it a programming issue that you couldn't make the software talk to the hardware and stop the disk properly because they were skipping or optos weren't, No,
it was nothing like that. I mean, the software did a pretty close approximation. Like the way it works, in the games that are out there now. They usually come pretty close to stopping at the right thing, every time. They always try to stop at the same place, and it's usually pretty close. I was probably going to revisit it and make it work better because I did that whenever I did it, and had several months to think about how I would make it a little bit better. I was kind of dreading having to go back there and work on it to make it perfect. But, I was getting ready to do it. And then the mechanical issues with the disc started surfacing. And it's like, we just got to take this out because we can ill afford another WAS lightboard situation that, constantly breaks and constantly needs to be replaced at our expense and that kind of thing. I mean,
I'm guessing... Yeah, I'm guessing similar things have kind of regardless of what company you're working at, Bally Williams, Stern, or JJP, similar things in the design phase have been taken out. But I guess this is the first kind of public one that people play the game and like that feature, and then
absolutely. I mean, Twilight Zone used to have 3 magnets in it. It doesn't now.
Yeah.
Most people don't miss them, but most people didn't even realize at first at the time the game was out that there was supposed to be a 3rd magnet there.
I mean, the third magnet, that was to do with throwing the ball from spiral to spiral and staging the balls for multi-ball. Is that right? Like having all 3 balls in the spiral?
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, during the spiral mode, the basic way that was supposed to work is that you're supposed to shoot the spiral 3 times and you catch the ball on each magnet. So that's why it was like three spiral shots.
Yeah.
So they took it out because they didn't need it or whatever, and made the rules work the way they were supposed to work anyway, and pretty much no one was any of the wiser.
So in a perfect world, would you, if you had it your way, and obviously there's a lot of factors, with cost and distributors and getting money flowing and stuff like that. In a perfect world, how would you release a game? Like would Pirates of the Caribbean have been shown yet? Like, would you show it in its current state if it was up to you? Or would you wait until it's literally in a box ready to go?
I think giving people an appetite of what's coming. I mean, we pretty much thought we were going to make that game pretty quickly after Expo, and things happened, like Dialed In went much longer than we thought it was going to, and things like that. So the game kept getting pushed back, generally for good reasons. But then, we kind of found out after the game started traveling around and stuff, and being on locations that maybe the disc thing wasn't going to work out too well. So they tried. We knew the disc had certain issues after Expo, and they were addressing them, and then that probably led to some other things, and so it's like it at some point it was just time to cry uncle. And
well, yeah, so that's what I was going to say. Given that if you had more time, do you think that there could have been a solution for it, or it was never going to work? And considering it's one mech of many in a much larger machine, it just probably wasn't worth the investment in time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of time and effort had already been put into it. But
do you think you could have ever got it to work?
I think it probably could have worked eventually, but you don't know when you're going to get to that point either. It's like you do it, and then you got to put it on a test fixture and see if it holds up, and that may or may not. You hope that's applicable to real life when you design a test fixture, but sometimes things happen in a game that don't happen in a test fixture too. Someone does maybe a ball lands on it funny or something like that and causes something to pop off, or whatever. Who knows? I mean, there were definite issues, and it had to be taken out based on where we were with needing to produce the game. So
and we know. I know that you're sort of on social media as well. The reaction to it was pretty negative.
Pretty.
Yeah, I'm being nice about it. And look, it will simmer down. But I know of a person that cancelled their pre-order because of it. It was obviously one of the major features that was promoted when the machine came out, and we had a prototype in Australia as well, and we got to play it, and it was a major feature as well. And you obviously,
I guess spinning discs are like, I know it's a unique spinning disc, but it's still a spinning disc. Is it? I was surprised at.
Well, I didn't like it. I was on record saying I didn't enjoy them at all. I actually felt it quite random, and so the new arrangement for me is actually probably better, because I think it's going to be, less on, because it doesn't have to be such a major feature anymore. But people really felt quite passionate about something that had been, revealed and promoted and then sort of taken away from them.
I guess. I mean, maybe it's just, my Jersey Jack bubble of naivety, I'm not sure, but I never looked at them as like the coolest thing in the game. Like it seems like a lot of people did. I mean, to me, the ship is way cooler than the spinning discs are, and to me, that's the selling point of the game. Is the moving upper playfield.
Yeah, I guess, but your field of vision really is looking at the middle of the machine, so those discs are always there in your field of view. Look, I think that people will sort of settle and come back. But you've also probably got, I guess the code that you've put in there is pretty much salvaged anyway, because the rewards are going to be on the back. And I don't think you answered the question, in that in your mind you didn't necessarily see that it was that much of a major feature. So I'd said at the time that I felt that when Eric put his message out, I could sort of see that he really didn't want to make that call anyway, so it was probably a big decision to make. But were you really surprised by the backlash that came from it?
I personally was, yes. Someone internally put the over-under at like 100 cancellations, and I easily took the under. I don't know if we'll ever know what the number is, but I was way more worried about losing that bet than I thought I ever would be, based on the reaction. No, I'm not saying that's actually come to pass. I don't know what has actually happened with regards to cancellations. It seems like most people said, "Oh, well, I'm going to hold on to it and see how it turns out." And I feel like we had a pretty good stream today. We showed off some new features and some new lighting and stuff like that. We finally got the star map in there, so people could see what that was about. We showed the work we're doing with we'll be doing with the camera. Like all those cameras.
Those that haven't seen it, could you explain what the star map is doing and the camera feature?
Yeah, so with the camera, the game has a camera in it. We're trying to decide what to do with it. We're obviously not going to do selfie mode, in the land of pirates. So we're like, well, we'll take high scores and we can make them look old timey, and stuff like that. And maybe we can even add pirate hats to people, be all Snapchatty or whatever. So we played with it a fair amount, and if you watch the most, at the time you listen to this episode, the most recent Jersey Jack Pinball stream, which is already uploaded on YouTube, by the way. You can or at the very beginning of the stream, we go through a track mode and we show a screen of actual generated wanted posters using a camera and processing and stuff like that. So the things that are in there are not just artist mock-ups. They were legit made by game code, and we didn't have it hooked into the game yet, but game code was used to generate those posters, and so someone made a screen of several of us having our pictures taken and being edited. Like I have the pirate hat on that was put on there by the game. So it's all in there and working, and just needs to be properly hooked up to pirates. So we have Ted to thank for working on all that photo processing stuff. And then the star map. The star map basically it shows you a constellation, and from that constellation you're supposed to discern the shot or target that it is telling you to shoot. And then when you shoot it, you get some points, and the book pops up, the Galileo's journal or whatever pops up with a constellation that you shot, and shows you a score. And if you get enough of those, you'll light the extra ball and stuff like that. So it's a rule that you don't necessarily need to know is in there or shoot for, but it is a path to an extra ball, a path to extra points. So I think it'll be pretty fun.
I'm looking at the wanted screens now. I just opened up that YouTube video, and Eric is very much into the whole yarg thing, and so are you. But you got to tell Peg Leg Joe that he's got to put on his best pirate face. That's pointing. His face is very normal in that picture.
Yeah, he's all crazied out, I think.
Now, Keith, I've got a two-part question for you. Leading on from that, so. When I met Jack last year, and I talked about on the podcast, I sort of said you've got your front-facing camera, and you've also got your back screen. All it needs now is a playfield cam, and you've got a ready-made streaming machine, right? Now, I said that to Jack, and he was very polite, saying, "Great idea." He wouldn't have thought about it again. So. There's an idea for your camera, but the point I was actually going to ask is...
we actually use the in-game camera in our stream. Like, that's the camera for the player view.
Well, there you go. See, I think that's already right there. So that was my idea, just so everybody knows.
Once we need to use it for, like, the high score pictures and stuff, then, we won't be able to use it anymore. We'll use one of the other ones, for the player view or something. Yeah, but right now, yeah, we do have the camera in there, and we do use it for the stream, instead of hooking it up to the game, to the rig.
And so what I sort of remember saying at the time when I mentioned on the podcast is that it's so easy for me to come up with an idea and go, yeah, Jack, do it, it's a great idea. And then implementing that kind of stuff isn't so easy. And I also know that there's with TNA, a lot of people I know keep feeding Scott Denisi a lot of information about rules and what they could do. Is that what happens with you as well, where as soon as you're at a pinball tournament or a get-together, people come up to you and go, Keith, I've got these great rules and you've got to implement them. Is that what happens as well with you?
Not really, honestly. I think people maybe respect me enough that they know they don't have to give me rule suggestion, possibly. Sure. Maybe that's egotistical or something, but I have rarely been given like legit ideas that were actually fun. You know what I mean? Like I've had people say,
you're kind of backing.
Like a classic one on World Poker Tour. Someone wanted me to hey, if you shoot 50 ramps, then you should light special. I'm like, okay, great. Why would I do that? I mean, there's putting work into a game for the sake of work is just stupid. That's why I hate, do or die multi-ball so much. It's like, why in God's earth do I have to shoot, 3 sets of drone targets or 4 sets or whatever the hell it is to get to the end of the game? I mean, it's stupid. I'm sorry, but do or die multi-ball is a stupid requirement. There had to be a better solution to that. So, I mean, the game's got to flow. I mean, the game, not just from a playfield perspective, but the rules of the game and what the game is presenting to you and how it feels and all that stuff. It's got to have some flow. It's got to make sense going from one thing to another. Don't just say, to go back to Indiana Jones, right? Oh, okay. First time you hit the arc 6 times, and then you hit it 10 times, and then you hit it 14 times, and then you hit it 32 times, or whatever the hell it is. I mean, that's stupid. There's got to be a better way than just making it a ridiculous number of times you have to hit something. Right? It's like, yeah. It's one thing I've always tried to do is have difficulty levels that kind of makes sense. It's not just hitting the thing over and over and over again. It's, maybe you have to hit them in order, or maybe you have to hit them twice, whatever. But there are different ways to do things than just making you do it.
So I guess you're saying you're trying to eliminate the whole chopping wood thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I really liked a lot of TNA, but if you want to get to the end of it, it's seriously chopping wood. I hate to say it. Cue unpopular response.
Oh, you're gonna get a lot of hate mail, Keith. Maybe I should have said that so I can get the hate mail.
That's right. Yeah, he's desperate for hate mail.
I mean, look, I really appreciate everything that Scott did in that game. It's amazing that he did, the layout and the coding and the rules and the sounds, especially the music. I mean, I'm probably one of the few people that really enjoy the music to that game based on what my circle of friends likes, I guess. But, there's a lot to like in that game. But slogging through those 9 reactors, man,
don't you think that it's, I guess, the reason why people are kind of publicly accepting it? And obviously, games go through waves. There's hype waves, and then things die down. They might come back later. Like no one cared about Congo back in the day, and then it's the best game ever, and then it dies down a bit. Don't you think that part of, I guess, the success of that game has got to do with the fact that you can explain the game in say 30 seconds to someone, but it's still not easy, versus a 1-hour explanation of what to do here and there with multipliers and things like that?
That's a great question. I mean, clearly enough people like what it is and what it offers to be buying it, in the hundreds. I mean, people aren't going to believe it, but I have many, many times pushed the idea of making, a really simple game just to see how it would go. And,
is that with your time at Stern or Jersey Jack, or what are you talking about?
A little of both, yeah. I mean, yeah. I definitely pushed for it a couple times at Stern, and I at least one time at Jersey Jack, probably just to, throw it on the wall and see if it sticks. Basically,
how simple are we talking about? Like mechanically simple, as in a single level, a play field, or just rules simple with whatever layout you guys have?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people don't like these games very much, but I actually have a lot of respect for the Gottlieb street level games, because those games have a lot of very interesting shots. Like, Loaded Weapon or whatever that game, I think it was Loaded Weapon, is not it's definitely not sought after or anything like that, but the shots in that game are really unique and interesting and do different things. I mean, It's
Well, that's what we thought of Silver Slugger, if you remember, Ryan, when we played that. We kind of thought that it was actually quite an interesting game considering its simplicity.
I can't get past the gut leap flippers. If you're able to trap every single ball that comes to you, then I don't know. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what's on the game. I just can't get past that.
yeah, that's definitely a Gottlieb thing for sure. But Loaded Weapon, even Title Fight has a fairly interesting play field. I mean, sure there are exploits in it, or it's not the best tournament game or something, but from what was done from a geometry perspective, a lot of those games are very interesting, and things could be learned from them. And to some extent, some of those rule sets are probably way more complex than the play field actually calls for. But I feel like it works. I mean, they're not good games in terms of packages, but they're actually not bad rules and shooting games.
So when it comes to the design and development of a game, do you have much of a say in layout and presentation?
It definitely varies. I mean, like back on Simpsons, I said we got to have an upper play field, and it's got to be the family room, and it needs a TV and a couch. So Joe came up with what he came up with, and there are a couple other things that, like the Quickie Mart area, which is a loop now, was my suggestion. At first, he just added a dead end target that wasn't very interesting, and he had those stand ups, the bully stand ups now, and you could never shoot those. But so we had the loop and the target, then you could bounce off the target and hit the bullies, and hit the bullies off the loop. So I definitely make suggestions here and there that I think enhance the game. I mean, a lot of the diverters in Hobbit were probably my idea, like the one that turns the ramp into a loop, and the idea of feeding the kickback and staging a ball at the kickback and diverting the ball into the lane that feeds the out lane and stuff like that. A lot of those are my idea.
How about the action
one more
button?
thing. Oh, the action button. That was probably my idea. I don't remember. I'm sure Stern used it on AC/DC, I think, right? So we had seen that, and it just got us thinking what we could do with it. And so we took the idea of the action button and gave it a lot of different things it could do at different times. It's like if you're paying attention, then it'll probably help you do something. Kind of like the Ring does in the movie, I guess, right? Bilbo puts it on, it helps him somehow. So
yeah,
you charge up the Ring, and you can use it, and it does something hopefully useful for you. So we just tried to make it more interesting than what we had seen at the time, and and then I feel like we went further with that on Pirates in terms of using it to set up your lane awards and especially collecting the gold.
So with Pirates of the Caribbean and the software and the progression, I guess there's 5 wizard modes that tie into completing all 5 chapters for that movie and also playing the multi-ball, right? So I believe it doesn't matter how horrible or well you go in the modes or the multi-ball. Once you complete those requirements, the kind of the major wizard mode for that movie is lit. Now, I haven't been watching too many of the streams, but I remember you coded one in there, I believe, which was the shooting in different areas of the play field to return the gold thingy-jiggies.
Oh, yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So I believe 2 other multi-balls are in there, wizard modes. Is that right? Is that where the code is at the moment?
Let's see. The one for 2 is done, and the one for 4 is done. Actually, okay. Eric got to movie 4 tonight.
Okay. Can you elaborate on that and let people know what is involved with those modes?
Yeah. So the first one, it's like we're trying to. In a way, we're kind of walking on eggshells, like trying to figure out what can we do that sort of ties to the movies that we can sort of create some assets that we're actually allowed to use and present to people. You know what I mean? So, I mean, obviously, there's nothing directly from the movie, but we know the pirates had to go, and after they spent all their money on booze and wenches or whatever, they had to go get it all back and repay the blood or whatever. So we took that idea, and that became the idea for the first, because we could tie it to pinball rules, like that concept. So that one, it's basically a frenzy. So every time you shoot a shot or a target or whatever, you're getting, some gold, but you can only get so much gold from a certain place. So once you've gotten all the gold from a place, you have to shoot a shot that represents some other place on the map and go to that city instead. Now all the gold you're getting is from that shot/city. And so you have to keep shooting different shots to move yourself around so you don't run out of gold at a certain location. So like you shoot a shot, hopefully you hit a spinner, collect a bunch of gold, and hit another shot to go somewhere else, hit another spinner. There's any number of ways to do it. Just keep shooting shots, but it's timed, so you have to do it in a certain amount of time. And so where it doesn't matter how well you play the modes to get there, it does matter how well you play them for your scoring. So the scoring is based directly on the number of characters you've collected for the movie, basically times the number of super jackpots you've collected for that multi-ball. So scoring, if you just held the ball and timed out all the modes, and so you'd be making like 10 points a shot. It's just, okay,
Yeah.
you're playing the wizard mode, great, but you're not going to score anything for it.
I guess that's what you were talking about as well with the new code coming for The Hobbit is the risks that you take before you get into that mode are now going to be tied to your scoring in the mode, whereas now it doesn't matter what you play.
Right, exactly. It'll be the quality of the mode that you play, yes.
Yeah, the quality, yeah. So how about one of the other modes? 'Cause we've seen that one where you're collecting the gold.
Right, so number 2 is battling the Kraken. So on that one, in the movie, the scene is raising the net, of gunpowder and rum, and at some point they're going to shoot the gun and blow it up and hopefully make the Kraken go away. So that one, you're shooting loops over and over and over again, the inner loop, to simulate raising the thing. But all that time, the Kraken is advancing on the ship, so you need to hit the other shots to keep the Kraken from maxing out a shot. And if he does, then you can't get him away after that. So you keep shooting shots, you keep making loops, and at some point you've gotten the net as high as it'll go, and then you make the map hole shot in order to shoot the gun and win the mode. But
that's what I love about your rules, I guess, Keith, is no matter how you look at them, and I guess, like what people are saying about, the Hobbit, and I was saying before that, you want that end mode, and you're like, well, we'll do something, but like the end mode on the Hobbit movies doesn't really kind of exist like it does on Lord of the Rings. And, when I'm playing Pirates of the Caribbean, the Stern version, every time you destroy the ship, you're battling the Kraken. And I guess that kind of goes back to what you said about, Gary Stern or upper management saying, well, yeah, you have to give people, what they want with the toys. And there's a balance there with the code of kind of doing something over and over again where, hey, every time you destroy the ship, you're battling the Kraken, which doesn't kind of really make sense, versus what you're doing here with Pirates, where you're trying to kind of be as true as you can to the movie franchise. We could talk to you for like 5 more hours, and I still have. I want to ask. I want to ask a couple more quick questions. Marty has to go to work, but shaker usage in JJP games. Some games, like some of the Stern games, they really like the whole machine's vibrating. Jersey Jack probably is very, very subtle. Is that obviously you're the guy who's implementing that? Do you have a bit of a hate for shakers, or do you prefer
yes,
it to
absolutely.
be? Yes, okay.
I don't get it. I don't get the whole shaker thing. It's like,
okay. Let me explain it from my point of view. I guess is your implementation of sounds, I think, is amazing. The feeling I get when I'm playing Lord of the Rings and Simpsons Pinball Party. I'll use those two, but there's also The Hobbit and Wizard of Oz, right? When I hit a super jackpot in Simpsons, and you have that insane payoff, and then the music ramps up again. In Lord of the Rings, Two Towers multi-ball, it just gets more and more and more intense until you get the 7X and the super jackpot.
Mm-hmm.
The use of the shaker, I guess, is just that it's that extra feedback, is that sensory feedback that you made the shot and you've done something well, just like a call out, right? So, would you ever consider, for, I guess, The Hobbit or Wizard of Oz? I mean, Wizard of Oz is pretty much done anyway. Would you ever consider just like that slight little shaker vibration just to just to reward the player for making the shot of what they were going for? What's the argument against that, I guess?
I mean, shaking for shaker's sake is like, I mean, it's the Gary Stern thing, right? It's like, I paid $50 for the shaker motor, and I gotta have the fucking thing shake. Sorry, maybe whatever.
Well, I mean, but
you can bleep that out if you want, but
no. You could say that for anything. You could say, well, you're saying jackpot for jackpot's sake. The old games, the Soul States, they didn't have any jackpot callouts. So
yeah, but I guess I'm so the shaker thing is like so hackneyed and so. It's like a revenue source now as opposed to something that's actually useful in a game. I mean, it made absolute perfect sense on Earthshaker for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what sense it makes on Guns N' Roses. Wizard of Oz, I feel like we used it in appropriate spots. The Wizard's going, or certainly during key points of the multi-ball animations and stuff like that. I mean, I think it's good where it's used. I don't think it's overused. I think it feels appropriate. And, I know we added some to it at some point, and maybe Ted or someone made a point in adding more to Hobbit. I don't remember when that happened, but
yeah.
Just
right,
doing it for Jackpot.
Yeah. Another one, which I already know your answer to because you've already addressed it publicly, but this is the conversation I have with my friend. I don't like playing Wizard of Oz because my scores are always so shit. I'm like, no, your scores are actually pretty good. But I go on Attack from Mars and I get billions, and I have a good game of Wizard of Oz and it's 200,000. I'm like, well, if you want to stick a post-it note on the back and write ,000 to make you feel yourself feel better, then you can. He's like, yeah, I understand, but it doesn't change the fact that I still feel like I haven't had a good game because of the score. So people have suggested it before. I already know your answer, but I guess I just want you to say it out loud. Would you consider putting a menu adjustment where you can say, add 3 zeros to make yourself feel good at the end of it?
No. So what am I going to do? Now I got to, do I put 3 zeros, 6 zeros? Do I let you decide? Now I got to make space in the display for all those frickin' zeros? I mean, right now scores are low and you can make the numbers bigger because they're small numbers. I mean, if you make scores gigantic, then it's just silly. I mean, actually, I'll have to go back and find it. Maybe I'll forward it to you guys. But I tweeted a picture of I had a bug during Hobbit where a score went negative on one of the modes, and since we use 64-bit scoring, basically it said, oh, now the next shot is worth 18 quintillion points or whatever it is, and it showed on the display and it worked just fine. I mean, but it looked really silly. I mean, do we really need to have all those digits? I mean, at some point it's just silly. Like, why do I care about getting 25,000 for hitting up the middle when I'm eventually going to get to a mode and score 2 billion on the game? I mean,
do you think sometimes that you have to, I know, your involvement in pinball has been for 2 decades, and there's always new people entering the market. Do you feel like sometimes you have to dumb it down? Well, I know you do it anyway with a lot of, you have to balance everything out, but do you feel like, you have to think about that person and kind of go back to, 2 decades ago and say, hey, when I was first playing pinball, people like this, and people,
people don't get, when you start getting into millions, people like casuals don't really get that, I mean, okay, above average players understand, a billion is like 9 zeros after it, but a casual is like, oh, that's a lot of digits. I have no idea what the hell that number is.
Okay.
Like my father, was playing World Poker Tour once, and he's like, oh yeah, I got 30,000 on the game. I did pretty well. I'm like, in my head, clearly he meant 30 million, but it's like,
It didn't matter.
my father was actually a pretty smart guy, or was a pretty smart guy. Gets confused between thousands and millions. Like, what is a normal person doing? So that played no small part in my decision to ratchet things back. And, it doesn't matter. It's all relative. I mean, look at the high scores of 500,000. So, I don't know. I don't get the complaints about the score. I mean,
all the other newer companies that enter the market are kind of going for that lower scoring thing as well. So I think you've started a trend, which is for the better in my opinion.
Yeah, right. Certainly TNA did that. I mean, that game, you get $1 million, you're having a decentish game on that thing. So
yeah. All right, Keith. Well, I think unless there's anything else that you want to chat about. I mean, as I said, we can continue talking forever because, as I said, I think you've got the hardest job in pinball because you have to satisfy everyone, and it's no easy feat to do. So
yeah, well, at some point you just get over it, and it's like, I know I can't satisfy everyone, so I satisfy myself, and hopefully that coincides with a majority of people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why Simpsons is the way it is. It satisfies me, so that's pretty much why most of the games will be like that.
All right, Keith. Well, we look forward to seeing Pirates in its completed state, and I'm sitting there on the JJP software downloads page, pressing F5 for that final Hobbit. Hopefully, we'll see that in the.
I was going to say,
it'll be after Pirates. I can tell you that. For sure.
After Pirates is complete, or after Pirates is shipping, or when can we? Is there a? I know.
At least after some point after it's shipping. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Look forward to it.
I'm waiting for that cartwheel, and that's when I'll start pressing F5, I guess.
Well, just because you see the cartwheel doesn't mean the Hobbit Code's magically can be done. I mean, I haven't worked on it that much. I mean, Ted's done some stuff on it, but I haven't done some stuff that I want to do with it yet. So
Okay.
it's it'll be there eventually.
No worries.
Trust me.
Good stuff. Thanks for coming on, mate. Enjoy the rest of your night.
All right. Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, mate.
See you, Keith.
So there you go. That was Keith Johnson. Keith, what do you think, Ryan?
It was amazing. There's a lot of awesome information there. He definitely doesn't hold back from sharing his opinion. TNA, chopping wood. It's funny because at the core it is chopping wood, but so is like Metallica, and playing it and getting near Reactor 9 is a different experience with the everything amping up. The other thing I got from the interview is he's almost ruined Lord of the Rings for me because
Why?
Well, I played it for the first time in a while after the interview, and Balrog came out, and my brain automatically just hears Gary Stern going, "Come on, we got this $20 toy, we got to put Balrog in there." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what have you done, Keith? You've ruined the game for me." I can't take it seriously anymore. I can't take the Balrog seriously anymore. So, yeah.
I mean, I always thought the Balrog toy was a bit of an odd one, but now I guess I understand why.
Well, I mean, what Keith is saying is that it coming out for no reason is odd. Using it during the Fellowship of the Ring multi-ball is fine. And I love that mode. You hit him, you hit a shot, you hit him, you hit a shot, you get everyone across. It's one of my favorite multi-balls. So, shall we head to the news?
Yeah, well, there's quite a lot of news this week. What shall we start with?
Well, let's start with Jesse Jack, since we kind of just did a 2-hour interview with Keith on it.
Yeah.
Jack commented on Pirates of the Caribbean during the interview with, I don't know what the podcast is called. It's called the Pinball News and Pinball Magazine podcast, I think it's called.
That's the one, something like that.
Yeah. And basically he said that the disc isn't reliable, so it's not going back in. He accepts it as his mistake since he was kind of leading the company, even though I guess it's the engineer's fault. I mean, that sounds horrible.
Sorry,
but
Eric.
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't. Eric wasn't engineering it. He kind of gave it to somebody else. Anyway, and he said the days of revealing a game before it's ready is probably over. So that doesn't mean that they're not going to show a machine again in the kind of the same state, but I don't know. You feel a lot better kind of listening to that interview. But they're just words, I guess, you know, like Jack is very good at being a politician. And I know that sounds horrible, but,
no, he's a salesman. He knows the right things to say.
Yeah, he knows the right things to say. He makes you feel nice, warm, and fluffy, even though what in front of you isn't that way. But I did watch that stream that Keith was doing right before we interviewed him.
Yes.
I did go back and watch that, and it really is looking like a good game.
Yeah,
and I mean, it was a good game all along. I think it's just that I guess you get bored of kind of talking about it without playing it. Did you have a look at the star map and what it does?
Yeah, I really only saw the tail end of it, and I haven't had a chance to go back. But I know that was one of the features they did show off on the stream.
Yeah, so I always thought the star map was just going to be this kind of twinkling thing just for show, but basically it only exists on the LE and the CE. It's not in the Pro, and I guess it's the first feature that Jesse Jack are kind of having exclusively for possibly an LE and not in the Pro, because what it does is it's kind of like the stars in the sky, and every once in a while, I'm not sure what triggers it, it'll show something to hit, like a letter like A, which is in the in lanes, or a treasure chest. And it was really obvious on the stream, but Keith said that's a bug. It's meant to look a lot less like what it's meant to be showing. So you're meant to be kind of like squinting at it, trying to make out what it is, like you would do when you look up at the stars and say, oh, that's the Big Dipper, and that's this, and that's that. So you kind of meant to kind of look at it, figure out what it is, and then hit that shot, and then it kind of gives you like an award, and eventually it gives you an extra ball. So it's cool. I mean, there's a lot of new things in that game that have never been done before, and that's why the taking the discs out thing is quite ridiculous how everyone reacted. It's still, you know, it's still a valid reaction, but if you kind of take a step back now after 2 weeks, it's still a good game. If you watch the stream, there's still an insane amount of stuff in there that no other machine has.
Oh, look, I do like more and more of it. I'm sort of in the same boat as you. Is I now just want to play it. I actually want to see the final thing, and I want to see how the code has evolved. I still agree. I think overall it's still a great game. The discs didn't bother me too much, so bring it on. Do we know when it's going to ship? Have we been given an update on that?
Yeah, I can't remember if Eric said June or July. He's going to go down there and help set up the line, and that's, I guess, when it starts shipping. I think Jack mentioned it as well, but not this month or next month. So,
okay.
Eric also mentioned that there's a laser cut topper coming as well for the LE, and I'm not sure if that was mentioned before. I'm not sure if that's on the feature matrix, and maybe possibly that's what they're chucking in as compensation for taking the discs out.
Yeah.
Or maybe that was meant to be in there all along. I can't be bothered having
I couldn't remember it either.
Yeah. So in honor of Keith Johnson coming on our show, we're going to do a little Pirates competition. Marty, explain it.
All right. So what we want is people to send us through an audio clip in their best or worst, you decide, pirate voice. And we want you to say something either about the podcast or about pinball or about pirates in pinball. You know, you make it up. And what are we going to do to decide the winner, Ryan?
You choose one, I choose one, and then we'll put it to a Facebook vote. You are not allowed to send an audio clip that is over 10 seconds long. All right, and this is just to stop what happened last time of people writing insanely long paragraphs and news pieces. I don't want a 2-minute audio clip. 10 seconds. Whatever you have to do to be funny in 10 seconds has to be done in 10 seconds. So just record it on your phone and then click the email button and then email to head, the number 2 head at pinball, at gmail.com. Head2Head at gmail.com.
And we'll post it up on Facebook.
Oh, sorry, and the prize. The prize is a Pirates of the Caribbean Translite. And as I mentioned a couple of episodes ago, I did get this from the Jersey Jack factory. Jack signed it for me on the way back home, it got the tiniest little rip in the corner. It's a translite, so it's not a piece of paper, so the rip doesn't look bad. It's literally about 2 centimeters long on the side. If you frame this thing, you won't see it. So that's why we're still giving it away. It doesn't ruin it, but just putting it out there. I think it's still worth entering the competition, despite the little tiny rip, and it makes it more authentic. Pirates don't have, clean stuff. It's
Yeah, it's like a
Yar.
ripped bit of parchment.
Yes.
The authentic pirate experience is how we're going to recover from this.
diversion. Alice Cooper Nightmare Castle, Marty.
What have we got to say about that? Well, we know the sort of they are selling in numbers.
People are starting to get numbers associated with their deposits, and I did see someone getting a number as high as 399. So do you think that means they're possibly doing them out of order, or do you think they've actually sold 4/5 of their total run?
I mean, with Spooky, can you choose which number you want your machine to be?
In the past, no, but I'm not sure if it's newer this time. This is a question for Lucas. Yeah, this is really good journalism here. We're doing pretty good so far.
Anyway, it's selling well. That's all they need to know.
The big news of the week, Marty.
So let's talk about Heighway Pinball.
Yes.
And we did get some news, and we got a lot of news that was fed to us very early on. Unfortunately, by the time we get to record this podcast, a lot of it is already out there. But what do we know, Ryan? Well, we know that Heighway, the UK company, Heighway Pinball, has pretty much gone under.
Yeah. They've hung up their boots, and I guess the writing was on the wall last week when that guy kind of quit and CoinTaker didn't want to pay for that container. And what did we say? We said, oh yeah, I think they've still got some life left in them if, this is not the end of them. No, it was the end.
Yeah. Well, but is it the end of Alien Pinball, and is it the end of future Heighway Pinball titles, Ryan?
Well, I'm not the one who got fed this information, so just tell me, Marty.
All right, so everybody, here's our disclaimer. This is pure speculation. We do not know this for fact, so don't try to sue us. We've got no money. I don't have any money. Ryan's absolutely rolling in it, so don't. But here's what we know. What we know is that again, it's speculation. I don't think this is something that happened last week. I think this is something that they saw coming a long, long time ago. And what's happened effectively is pretty much all the assets of Heighway have now gone to another company, which I believe is in Sweden, even though they also have a registered office in the UK. And this company is called Pinball Brothers.
Okay.
And Pinball Brothers, which is made up of the same directors that were the directors that were the investors that took over Heighway Pinball, I believe, are going to, at some stage, try to get Alien Pinball out the door again, probably in about 6 months.
That's a bit longer than 2 weeks, but
Yeah.
how is that legal? Like, I mean, if the license is with Heighway, do they sell? Are they allowed to sell the license? Like,
well, this is where you could read that there's a big bloody alien thread on Pinside, and it's where everybody really is speculating about what it is. So I could probably read out the speculation, because therefore it's not me; it's me reading out somebody else's thing. But it could be. I do not know. What I had heard is that this company had been set up a while ago, and I believe that this company was providing the parts for Alien and selling those parts to Heighway, and then they could, ship all those to Sweden because it was their assets anyway. I don't really know, but I'm just gonna say, just fucking don't buy an Alien. I would recommend don't buy a machine from this group. It just reeks. It reeks, Ryan. It reeks. It stinks.
What we did learn is Mr. Deeproot came online and said, we did open a dialogue to buy Barry's 3 games with them on Monday. They refused to sell Queen. Playboy we didn't want, and the third unlicensed game we can recreate under US laws without a problem. We never asked them about Alien, but I have been shocked, blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, everyone kind of knew that Queen was going to be their second game. So I guess these Pinball brothers are also planning to somehow manufacture and produce Queen Pinball machine. I don't know. Who's going to do work for them? I mean, yeah, Barry Asler did the layout, but I mean, everyone knows that the layout isn't the pinball machine. It's the software and everything that goes into it. Is that already done?
It reeks, Ryan. It reeks.
I mean, they haven't paid anyone they haven't paid so many people. So I don't know who would still work for. Yeah. I'm gonna read the Andrew Heighway statement, surely.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
Do you want me to do it in a funny voice, or do you want me to just do it normal?
Just do it in a funny voice, and I want to say something afterwards.
I won't. I'll do it normally. So Andrew Heighway decided to go into Pinside Fed. Like, just let that sink in. Right? After, self-imposed exile, he came back, and this is what he wrote. Statement from Andrew Heighway. I'm truly sorry to hear about the turn of events announced today. In June 2017, I sold my controlling stake in Heighway Pinball Limited, including its commitments and liabilities, to a group of investors who claimed to want to put significant funds into the company, achieve mass production, and deliver part-paid and fully paid games to customers, as well as new machine sales. Throughout the 5 years that I ran the company, we developed and sold games up until the time of my departure. This was never a Ponzi scheme, as some have suggested. A mix of technical problems, supplier quality problems, and unrealistic timeframes resulted in delays that financially crippled the company. We were all committed to delivering games to all paying customers. I personally apologise for the unrealistic timeframes. There have been suggestions that I stole or diverted company funds for my own ventures. These are very serious accusations, and never once have I been interviewed by the police for any alleged wrongdoings. The company's accountants have never suggested any wrongdoings by me. It can be proven that the company owed me significant monies and not the other way round. I would therefore advise people to refrain from making any libelous or slanderous statements about me, as I would defend myself and my integrity. I very much regret that the company's owners have closed the company without honouring its commitments to all paying customers, and I wish everyone the best in pursuing their claims against the investors or via the insolvency practitioners. This situation has appalled me, and I'm extremely sorry for the anguish that it will inevitably cause. Andrew Heighway.
Can I say something, right?
Sure, why not?
Hey, Marty.
Yeah.
There have been suggestions that I interviewed Keith Johnson. They are very serious accusations, and never once have I been interviewed by the police for any of the alleged interviews.
I know, that was just a weird one to come out, wasn't it?
Well, as in, he's not actually saying that he stole or diverted the company funds. He didn't say, I didn't do it. He said, people have suggested it. It's very serious to suggest that, and I've never been interviewed by the police about it.
Yeah,
right?
So what he's saying is, I got away with it! Suckers!
Do you know what I mean? He could say, you could substitute any word there, and that would be true about anything, unless we're actually interviewed by the police. But do you know what I mean? He actually hasn't said anything in those 3 lines there. It's been suggested that I've done it. That's a serious thing to say. I've never been interviewed by the police.
So who knows? I mean, it's just a complete and utter fuckery.
And there's a lot of people that are obviously really upset that they've had their money, I guess, tied up in this, and now it's probably going to be gone, and I doubt they're going to get much back. A lot of people had an opportunity to pull their funds. A lot of people, I guess, missed their kind of credit card chargeback date, but that time has kind of expired. I don't think you can do a chargeback, 2 years later or 3 years later. But a lot of people kind of believed in the second coming of the rebirth of Heighway Pinball, and it turned out to be. I'm not sure. I haven't really followed the thread, but I don't think many people or anyone that was kind of promised a game from the original fully paid crew ended up getting an Alien after the rebirth. because they just kept on kind of taking new orders and new money. So those people, I mean, that I guess is a Ponzi scheme, but maybe not a deliberately set out Ponzi scheme. But that's I guess what a Ponzi scheme is, right?
Yeah.
Keep on getting new money until the arse falls out.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think you're absolutely right in saying that. It wasn't set up as a Ponzi scheme, but inevitably that's what it became to try and keep themselves afloat. And didn't we see that with other companies as well?
Yeah, we did, and then they got investors, and it was okay.
J-pop, wasn't it?
Social justice?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
The other point was that people have sort of been speculating, and I kind of alluded to it before, that before the company was dissolved, all the assets were transferred to this new company, so then they could dissolve the old company. So I'd imagine...
Is anyone suing these people?
Oh man, I don't know. But I could imagine the liquidators, when they went to, they got to the warehouse and said, right, what can we sell off? They've gone, oh shit, it's just an empty warehouse. There's a rotten apple core over there, a half-eaten sandwich there. Plans for a hydrofoil.
There's a $10,000 machine to make not star posts, the hex posts. I remember when Andrew bought a whole machine to make hex posts and print t-shirts. Didn't he buy a t-shirt printing machine? Oh my gosh. Anyway,
so and the other thing I just wanted to note as well, because they've obviously talked about Playboy, right?
Yes.
And so there was I just wanted to read this out because I found this quite interesting, because I actually didn't know that they were thinking about doing Playboy. And obviously we knew about...
Do you remember we got that email saying there was some company in Germany that got the Playboy license or something? Maybe that's what it is. They just got their wires crossed and it was Heighway.
But so this is actually from Dave Sanders,
Okay.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but is it Eala Dub Side, whatever it is? Anyway, I used to follow him back in Virtual Pin days. So he said the Playboy license was first pitched to the Upstairs team in, I think, 2014, and opinions ranged from the ambivalent to the really, really outright hostile. This was before the brand itself was forced to sharply change direction, and people really did end up having to read the magazine for the articles. But even back then... Even back then, I knew that a British company taking on a brand that was synonymous with bygone America, particularly for the age range in an American-led market that would be expected to buy the machines, was a spectacularly bad idea that couldn't possibly be met with anything other than hostile response.
But Elvira, on the other hand, shall we segue into that? Yeah. That's a good segue into Elvira, right?
Like what we did there? Nice. So what about Elvira? There has been a bit of an update, hasn't there?
Yeah, I'm not sure where this is posted. You could do this one, Marty, because you're the one who put it in the show notes.
I think this came from Pinside. So the poster said a couple of other Pinsiders, and I don't even know who this was. So apologies to whoever it was. So apparently people chatted with Cassandra Peterson, who is the actress that plays Elvira. So I chatted with her a few weeks ago on April 14th at Monsterpalooza. We asked her about the game, and here's what she told us. 1, yes, the game is happening. 2, the artwork is gorgeous. 3, the LCD screen will feature vintage clips from Elvira's movie Macabre. 4, she is doing all of the call-outs. In fact, she said that she was going to be recording them next week, so it's probably already done by now. 5, she said it's looking like the game will be out either late 2018 or early 2019.
I wonder how many blowjob jokes she'll chuck in there. There was only one.
3 minimum.
3. That's the thing. There's only so many deadheads that they could do, and it just became so repetitive. I hope there's at least 50 deadheads in this one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, she's the queen of the innuendo. So I
can't wait. I can't wait for the reaction. I'm just
going to say this, right? Yeah. I think you either go boots in or not at all, right?
It's going to be boots in.
If you're going to do this, you're going to piss people off. Piss them off completely. You know what I mean? Like, because what you don't want,
as in, like, don't put a fully clothed on the back glass, like butt naked.
No, I mean like go as a self. But what I mean is, if you're gonna put in, let's say you're gonna put in 30 jokes,
Yes.
don't put in 29 safe jokes and then one really, terrible sexist joke, and everyone goes, "Oh, it's sexist." Like, fucking make them all sexist, so everyone's got something.
As we discussed, Elvira can get away with anything because she's Elvira. It's empowering, right?
Well, it is, and I think it's because most people know that it's actually really taking the piss out of blokes that get into that stuff. So, if you get the joke, you'll get it. If you don't, then whatever.
Yes. What else you got this week? Marty, you got to see what you bought. The Iron Maiden LE art.
I did well. Not only the Iron Maiden LE art, but I also got to see the playfield and the toys.
And what did you think, Marty?
So, and also it's got the red trim, right? So let's start with the red trim, because everyone after they came out and go, "Oh, what do you think of the red trim?" I'm like, "Yeah, it looks fine. Yeah, it looks alright. It's not offensive.
Yeah,
fine. What do you think?"
I'm not really the art critic, but it didn't look right, and I guess, and I don't know why. It's like almost like the colors are clashing or something, and then people started photoshopping a different trim on it, and the artwork is fine. The artwork looks really good, but it looks better with every other color, right?
Okay.
And it's hard to put a poll out there because people know what the color is meant to be. So I showed my wife and I said, "Which one do you like the most?" It was like gold, blue, black, and then the red. And red was the least favorite. She said that looks terrible. I don't think it looks terrible or anything. And I mean, when you're playing a pinball machine, it doesn't matter anyway. And everyone that has an LE, not everyone, but most people have a collection of pins. These are the high-end people that are buying the machines, and they can't see the artwork and the side anyway. So it doesn't really matter. And it's just, I guess people had to complain about something with Iron Maiden, right? There's a theme, and now there's the red trim. Yeah. Missed opportunity to get rid of the WWE armor on that one instead of that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and so when it came to the side art, I mean, we'd already been tipped off of what it was going to look like, so I'd conditioned myself to what it was going to look like, and I wasn't disappointed. Meaning, I thought it was going to be crap. I wasn't disappointed.
Yeah,
it's just, I think it's okay. It doesn't bother me because I'm not going to see the side art on my machine. Again, it's probably a missed opportunity. It could have been something that was really fucking kick-ass, but what's there is okay. For me, it was all about what the playfield was going to look like, and it looks awesome.
Marty, what if the premium, which hasn't been revealed yet, comes out and it is just shit hot and everything blends in perfectly?
Yeah. Well,
what will you do, Marty?
So you mean Game of Thrones again?
Oh, everyone talks like Game of Thrones premium is 10 times better than the LE. It's not. It's a little bit better.
No, I think it's much better. It's
like you take a shit on the floor and you sprinkle some fairy dust on it. It's still a piece of shit.
Yeah, with fairy dust. Hello. He doesn't like shit with fairy dust. No, I know what you mean. It's not like it completely transformed the machine, but it was the better of the packages, and what you would hope is that the limited edition has the better of the packages, wouldn't you?
100%, but when they limit it to, I guess they don't need to, do you know what I mean? Like, it's sold anyway, and it's almost in their best, like, if the premium is better, then that's better for them financially, right?
It's better for the brand. Like, that's what you're going to see, because they're going to sell a crap load of those.
Yeah, they can only sell if the LE was 10 times better, like the Star Trek, for example, right, with the shooting lasers and all that kind of stuff. People might say, well, I want that, so I'm going to hold out on the secondary market. But if the LE is kind of like just good enough and the premium is the best, then they'll just keep on selling a million premiums, right?
Yeah. I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered whether the premium or the LE looks better. It's as long as the playfield looks great, that's all I'm happy about, because that's what I'm going to be playing.
Yeah.
But I also do understand, as you do, you talked about you're not necessarily the art guy. People have, different priorities. Some people really want the trim to look absolutely perfect, and some people want the side to look great. Just doesn't bother me.
I saw that a post on Aussie Arcade. I can't remember who it was from. I think it was that Andigo that we interviewed, and he was kind of talking about, because he's like obsessed with Iron Maiden, and he was talking about how he's a bit disappointed that the Spitfire has this type of art, and there's the gunner at the back, which is obviously impossible because you'd be shooting your tail, so you can't have a gunner at the back. And and as a non-Iron Maiden fan, you kind of just sit there and like, oh yeah, whatever. But that's how passionate people are about this stuff. So you can never please everyone. If Jeremy Packer is listening, don't worry. It's sold out.
You did good, buddy.
I saw a hilarious one more thing. I saw a hilarious post on Pinside where someone said, "Pro owners will love the Pro and trash everyone else's decisions. Premium owners will think they got the best art and all the playfield toys at a lesser cost. The alley owners will swallow their true opinions and learn to love the alley art and the extras and have a truly limited game for better or worse." And that pretty much sums
it up perfectly.
That sums up Stern Pinball's Pro, Premium, and alley offerings in a nutshell.
Yeah, pretty much. And the fanboys
everyone's happy, right? Yeah, everyone's happy.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of Stern, moving on, so we've got new Guardians of the Galaxy code. And what have they done, Ryan?
Well, they've attempted to make the game good, and I'm a little bit upset because when the game kind of like sucks, like it's so easy to play the game. It's just like, yeah, just go for Groot. Okay, trash Groot. Let's go for Orb all day. But now Orb has been nerfed, and Groot is back up again, and modes have been totally rewritten, and this is actually like what it's meant to be, like a fully functioning independent game. And there's a lot on the playfield. There's the Hadron Enforcer, there's double scoring, there's the X shots, there's the crank it up scoop thingy jiggy. It still is at its core a mostly copied layout to Metallica. So I still feel like it doesn't feel unique when I'm playing it because I've got Metallica. I can get that experience, but the software now is unique enough, I think, to make it an independent game.
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on it as well in that it's well, we talked about it before, that the playfield was kind of like produced as a generic playfield for the theme to come later, and then the rules just sort of came together and they borrowed stuff from here and there. What I don't think about Guardians of the Galaxy, I just don't think it's going to go down as a memorable machine.
Yeah, I mean, Stern are releasing so many games, they can't make them all memorable. Like, the game that comes out next, which is, apparently Deadpool, that's going to be a victim of how good Iron Maiden is.
Yep.
People can't possibly get excited by two Stern games in a row. Happy to be proven wrong, but it's just hard. Like, hey, the people's money is now allocated and pushed. Like, tens of millions of dollars of pinball owners' money is now locked away in Iron Maiden, and maybe that's why we still haven't seen Monster Bash. There's no point in them, regardless of if it's ready or not. Maybe it is ready, maybe it's not. But can you imagine releasing directly after all the Iron Maiden reviews saying, "Oh my god, this is the best game in years by Stern"?
Yeah, but I still, I don't know. I still just wish that there was something in Guardians that was unique, even if it was a unique rule or just a unique feature of the machine. It's good, like it's actually a good game, and it actually shoots quite well.
Really well, yeah. I love the way it shoots.
It really does, but it shoots well. The rules are good. Everything is just a good B. There's nothing that really sort of stands out that gives you that wow factor.
Well, we get to play it in 2 weeks at
except for the playfield art, Chris Fancy, we love you.
Yeah, it's fucking got hexagons up the wazoo. That's what makes it unique. No, it's good for owners. I was joking before when I said I'm kind of annoyed, but it's just because it's annoying to have to learn the rules 4 times over, like I just want to learn the rules once. It's a roller coaster. Do you go for this? Do you go for that? Like, what's the strategy? Now I think it is actually worth going for, cherry bomb multi-ball and Immolation Initiative. It's the weirdest name for a wizard mode. It's just like hey, did you get into Immolation Initiative? Sounds weird.
It does.
So that's pretty much it for the news.
That's the news. So what shall we move to, Ryan?
Slam the top 100.
Yes.
Hey, I love this competition thing that we got going on, because you were kicking my ass when I looked at it one day in. Dirty Harry was destroying Big Bang Bar. It was like 10-1 or 3 or something. And then Big Bang Bar made a comeback. Everyone's into the sex instructions.
Yeah, I think that's a case of everyone going, if you're indifferent, you'll just let it go. But if you see that Dirty Harry's winning, you'll go, oh, bullshit, I'm clicking for Big Bang Bar. There's no way that one's going to win. Wave Angry Fist.
What would you rather play, Marty? Tell the truth.
I'll say Big Bang Bar, mainly because I think Dirty Harry is a shithouse game. I don't like it. It's you know what? It's the Guardians of the Galaxy of its time. It's okay. It's just, it's got shots. It's got things.
Without the good art.
Yeah, it's just okay. It's a terrible theme. I remember when that first came out thinking, what? This isn't a current theme. This isn't things that people are interested in anymore. It felt really out of date. It felt really odd.
Yeah.
So the fact that I got 46% of the vote, considering it was 93 or something.
I still don't think people are voting right. Remember, guys, because I got a message during the week saying, I can't believe you don't like Dirty Harry. I'm like, of course I don't like Dirty Harry. The objective of the game is to tell everyone that Dirty Harry's crap and Big Bang Bar is good.
Yeah.
What we say, guys, it's like, remember debating in high school?
Yes, you've got to pick a side.
Lawyers, when lawyers try and get like murderers off and stuff, okay?
Yeah.
It's like that. We're the lawyers, we're the debaters.
We're crooks, effectively.
We're just lying, okay? Whatever we say is a lie, but you just have to say which one had the best lie.
Who was convinced by our lies, effectively.
Exactly.
You know, who of us is more like Andrew Heighway?
Oh, shit. You better watch out, Marty. He will defend his integrity, okay? He will defend it. Edit that out, Marty. I don't want to fucking lose my millions, okay? Okay. Maybe we should rename it Andrew Heighway. Hydrofoil the top 100. Are you ready for this round?
I am. Let's go.
All right. Please generate a number from 0 to 100.
Coming right up. 64.
64 is Doctor Who.
Ooh. Have we done this before?
I don't know.
We really got to do a list because everything's like blurring into each other. Okay, I'll take it. I'll take Doctor Who.
Okay.
By the way, did you notice that Iron Maiden is not number 1 anymore?
No.
It's number
5.
Yes.
Yeah, The Wrath.
Let's read some reviews after this. It'll be funny.
Sure.
Please generate a number from 0 to 100.
Coming right up. 99.
Why do we never, like, once we got a low number? Like, besides Medieval Madness, I don't think we've ever got anything below 20. It's hilarious.
Okay, this is Catacomb by Stern.
Catacomb or Catacomb?
Catacomb.
Is it?
Yeah.
As in, like, those, is it like a cave kind of thing? Isn't it like a, isn't it catacomb?
So explain to me what a catacomb is.
I'm going to ask Google.
For cats?
Repeat after me. Catacomb.
Catacomb.
It wrote cat space a space comb. Okay, maybe it is catacomb. All right. Good luck to you, Marty. Okay. Doctor Who, you ready?
Go.
Doctor Who, absolute great value pinball machine. Doesn't cost you too much. A unique layout by Barry Ausler. Loops. You can do loops all day long, or you can go for multi-ball. You can go for the video mode to jack it up. It is ahead of its time with the character selection. You get to choose at the start which perk you want, and you can collect different doctors as you go along. It shoots brilliantly. It increases the volume during multi-ball, so you can hear those stupid Daleks screaming all day long. It is an amazing game with an amazing toy in the middle. There is no toy that beats that except Medieval Madness. That's my 30 seconds.
Done.
Catacomb, are you ready for it?
Nope.
You know nothing about it, do you? Go.
So, Catacomb by Stern. What an amazing game this is. Came out in 1981, I believe. No, I actually played this one back in the day. It's Stern of the time. You've got bloody, I don't know, 4 banks of targets, drop targets, and the Stern targets are just great. Awesome sounds on this. Is one of the first games that I really remembered that signature Stern sound. The art is fantastic. It's got a really nice green with, catacombs all over it.
Fail. Your time is up.
I don't want any votes this week.
All right, my 30 seconds starts now. Catacomb, or Catacomb as I like to call it. No one likes this game. I don't know why it's in the top 100. It's there by accident. Are you looking at a picture of the Playford Money? There's a giant piece of toast in the middle, right? Ready to put a piece of bread ready to put in the toaster. There's a little monster guy with multipliers on his back. Horrible. Doctor Who shits all over for this. I don't even need to use so fuck off. I want Jeff Yels's vote. So fuck off.
I'm gonna outvote you with that one. Come on.
Okay. You ready?
Right, you ready?
Yeah.
Who doesn't love interactive back glasses? We all do. And this has got a cute little bagatelle thing for the A, B, C, D in the back. How it works, I don't know. I don't care. Toast? Who fucking doesn't love toast? Toast is freaking awesome. Doctor Who, on the other hand, is just a boring machine. Once you understand, you've just got to repeat. Crap. Those shouty Daleks. You need to give me a vote because Ryan called them Daleks. There you go.
How did you go? Did you play Doctor Who in my competition?
No, I didn't actually.
Okay.
No,
everyone was struggling. Everyone was struggling with it.
Yeah,
regardless of how easy the game is.
Everyone struggles with that game because it's terrible.
All right, so we'll put that up in about 24 hours on our Facebook page, and you can vote who had the best argument. Or in this case, you can break the rules and just vote for the best game, which is Doctor Who.
Yeah, or vote against Daleks.
Okay.
I'm really going to go with that angle.
Okay.
It's the only thing I got. Like most people are going to go, what's this Catacomb? Never heard of it. Doctor Who? Oh yeah, loves me a bit of Leela.
People know Sea Witch, they know Stargazer. By the way, if you're selling a Stargazer, please let me know. I would like one. No one wants to sell it. But I'm looking at the Iron Maiden reviews, and there's no really bad ones. I think everyone, if there's a really bad review, people just flag it now and it disappears. People are like, I don't agree with this. And a lot of people messaged throughout the week on Facebook and on other means and said that you can – because I said the Pinside ratings are stupid because artwork doesn't mean that much to me versus this, and that. You can apparently – there's a slider where you can adjust what means more to you, and it weights things differently. So if you think the art sucks but it doesn't matter to you, then it won't take points off that globally. So I guess it's the best system that it can be, but I still think that people kind of bastardize their ratings depending on what they want to manipulate. So
if you wanted to buy a game that you wanted, like you actually really wanted, you're gonna buy this game, what sort of rating would you think you could give it as a minimum on Pinside?
If I wanted to buy the game, what would I give it?
Yeah. Like, would you buy a game? Would you say?
Yeah. Okay. Like, do I have any games that I think are like a 6 out of 10?
Well, yeah. Like, or if you said, look, I'm going to rate this game a 5, but I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, a 7 out of 10 for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, because someone's got rated this a 7, and it's on their wish list.
Okay.
So.
Well, they probably it's one of those people that really don't like Iron Maiden, and people love to tell other people they don't like Iron Maiden.
Yeah, I know. And
guess
it's
what,
because
guys? I don't like Iron Maiden.
No, well, that's right. It's because it's the anti-vote, right? Because people who like Iron Maiden freaking love Iron Maiden and are happy to tell you all about it.
they're lucky. They're really lucky they didn't actually go with Archer. I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, they should have just made Archer. Archer's so funny." Newsflash: Archer isn't funny anymore. they
It was
fucked
funny.
up.
It was funny.
It was really funny. The latest season sucked, and the new season also sucks. It's lost its charm. Anyway, shall we head to This Week in Pinball, sponsored by Jeff?
We should. What's happened this week?
What did we do together? We went to Pixel Alley. We didn't even tell each other we were going, but you just rocked up because it was a public holiday the next day. Correct. So the Pixel Alley Two Strikes competition, which is usually only has maybe 15 or so people there, double the amount of people rocked up, including you, Marty, which I don't think you've been there for a year or something, right?
I haven't been there for a very long time, I must admit.
And I messed up because I was planning to go there and then go and see Ready Player One about 2 hours later, 2.5 hours later, around then. And the competition would usually be done by then. And when I rocked up there, I gave Luke my money and he said, "Oh, it's actually more today because it's 3 strikes and not 2 strikes." I'm like, "Oh, shit, I'm not going to be able to." He's like, "Oh, and Jordan's coming as well." And I was like, "Oh, well, I should just leave now."
Yeah, exactly. You're just delaying the inevitable.
So we were matched up first on Simpsons, which is absolutely hilarious. It's the weirdest playing Simpsons ever. And some of the scores was that night. I mean, our scores were bad, but I took a picture of.
I just feel like you're glossing over that, and you're going to move on to another topic with actually out saying that I beat.
Well, I mean, everyone has kind of pinball excuses. I think Steve Bowden has like even a library of pinball excuses. That why he didn't win. My excuse was that I was wanting to go see a movie, so it didn't matter how I performed.
No,
I wouldn't have.
That's actually not true. Do you know why you lost that game?
Because I tilted twice.
You tilted twice because you practically had 2 house balls. It was just a terrible game. So I think my final score was like 2.4 million and yours was 2.2 million. And throughout the night, if you got over 1 million, that was a pretty decent score. It was just, and the garage wasn't working. That drives me nuts.
Yeah, I think I explained it last time that I came there. It's like, it's so frustrating because it works sometimes. So
this didn't work at all.
Yeah. Okay. I don't even know if I got it up there, but and even the target, you got it up there and you're trying to start multi-ball, and the left lock target, you can bash it 5 times and only register once. So it needs a little bit of work, but that's location pinball for you. So I ended up still having 1 strike left. One of the guy that I was going to watch the movie with, Jared Mendoza, I was playing him in the final round I was able to on Guardians of the Galaxy, and we were both on 2 strikes. So it was quite funny because we knew we couldn't advance anyway, so we were trash talking each other, and I ended up winning. So I still had a strike left, but I ranked, I guess, 14th or something out of. It doesn't really matter. I didn't win. Marty, you went a bit better because you stayed around.
Yeah, I did stay around, but look, I've got to say the collection of machines, they're probably not my favourite in that. Like, I like Game of Thrones. I think that's a premium. Yeah. Guardians was there. It was playing incredibly fast. But the other 3, so you had Simpsons, which everybody knows I dislike, and this one in particular, you know as well, it was just terrible.
Yeah.
Twilight Zone, and that one played as brutal as any Twilight Zone I've ever played.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't by far the worst game. The worst game was made worse. So we have talked about this game before. We talked about this when we stumbled across it at PAX, and we've talked about this game on previous podcasts because you've played this game at Pixel Alley. So we're talking about Star Wars. Now, it's a premium, isn't it? Or is it just... Yep.
It's a premium.
It's a premium. Everybody, this is the Star Wars that has the warped playfield. What that means is, if it's anywhere... And, this could be, like the pinball excuses thing that Steve Bowden's got, but the way people go, this playfield is actually warped. If you look at it face down on the playfield looking up, you can actually see the warping of the playfield to the left and the right. So anytime the ball goes anywhere near the left or right, you can't even bounce it out. It just goes down the left and right. And I was just ready to leave after I played that game. I just, it's unfair, and it's unfair that somebody's actually got that on location and people putting money into that game. It's a rort.
Well, I mean, fair enough on that comment, but I mean, in a competition, everyone's playing the same game, so...
Yeah, but it's not fun.
Yeah. Well, is my competition fun? I mean, I took out the outlanes completely, so...
Yeah, but you've done that deliberately. You could put those back to normal and still have a fun game.
Yeah.
This game is not meant to be like that, and it was actually produced that way. I just think they need to take it away, get a new playfield, and put it back in.
I remember at the last comp that I was there, I heard someone say, and this could be just total bullshit, that they did replace the playfield, and the second one was warped as well. But that's what I heard. I'm not sure if it's actually true, but I don't think there's really been reports of this being a widespread issue. So it could be just this one. It just happens to be on location at one of my favorite pinball competitions. So who won the tournament, Marty? Did you hang around?
No, I didn't. But
Jordan was there, so Jordan won. Okay.
Yeah, of course he did. So, yeah.
And I guess we went to a pinball meet, which we had a little Facebook Live video. You can jump on Facebook and watch that. A little 5-minute walkthrough of the event. That was a fun night. Yeah. And I guess the highlight of the night was that pinball cake.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was the pinball cake, but it was also just those, cream of the cream bloody Bally Williams, all in fantastic condition.
What did you say, Marty? The best Attack from Mars you've ever played?
I reckon it's the best Attack from Mars I've ever played, and it was backed up by Richard Rhodes, who's a top player in Australia. So it was actually it was hilarious because I made the big statement that said, this is the best playing Attack from Mars I've ever played, and Richard said, I absolutely agree. So Ryan gets on and goes, what? This isn't the best. Look at this. This light doesn't work, and these inserts are raised. And I'm like, what? And it's like, we didn't say it was the best looking game. We just said, but it doesn't play, then you can't shoot that. It's like, oh my God.
It did play amazing, but I did. I mean, when you say it's the best you've ever played, I picked two little hardware things that can be tweaked. And one is the lock diverter wasn't all the way in, so it sucks momentum out of the ball when it's meant to go all the way around into the ramp. And the other one was the fire again insert was slightly raised, so a slow ball will kind of divert and divot off that unlevel flush playfield. That's all.
Yeah, but
that's very minor. But you can't say it's the best one you've ever played. Well, I mean, it might be the best one you've ever played.
It was a big statement, but I could say in recent years, since I've come back from playing pinball, so let's say the last 6 years, absolutely, it was just the shots were really smooth. You could actually pick any shot and get your aim, and it just went where it needed to go.
Do you think? I mean, yes, you're right. It does play very smooth. I mean, a lot of Attack from Mars kind of play very smooth. But do you think that it's also something to do with like the in-lanes being all the way in, that kind of gives you that feeling like you probably had like a 10 billion game on or something, right?
Yeah, I think so. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think if you come to my house and you it's impossible to get like over 5 billion on my one, do you think that's going to make you feel a little bit less like it plays good because the ball just gets sucked down the outlane?
No, it's not about the outlanes on yours. The difficulty I had on yours is anything on the right side of the playfield. Okay. So the right ramp and the right orbit I found difficult to shoot on yours.
Okay.
That's all.
Cool.
Don't get offended. Yours
I'm not
still
offended.
A great machine. It's all right.
Talking about getting offended, good segue, Marty.
Yes.
I just want to apologize to Jeff Teolis, because we joke around a lot on the podcast, especially between me and Jeff, just banter kind of back and forth. But I'm not a comedian, right? So we went on this Slam Tilt podcast this week. It was a funny episode where I think there was 11 guests or so, and I jumped on at the end of the call and called Jeff Teolis an asshole, and he wasn't a nice person. And it was a joke. It was clearly a joke, but obviously people that don't know the situation, might not have thought it was a joke.
It was an in joke that people didn't know was an in joke.
If
we love Jeff Teolis.
We love Jeff Teolis. Okay, I went to Canada. He delayed. I mean, he was going to fly to Chicago. So he was going to drive to Chicago, but me coming over, it forced him to fly there. So me coming over cost him more money, and then he let me sleep at his house, and he drove me everywhere. He introduced me to everyone.
Yeah, he touched you while you were sleeping.
He didn't let me. Yeah. Okay, now this is the thing, Marty. Now you have to say that was a joke. Otherwise, people think that Jeff Teolis is a pedophile.
Well, how old are you?
I'm 19.
We're cutting that out.
Anyway, so that was a hilarious podcast. We'll link it in the show notes. It was great fun, wasn't it, Marty?
It was absolutely hilarious, I got to say. And I listened to it back. It's a 3-hour podcast. I mean, who does 3-hour podcasts? They're
Jesus,
ridiculous.
guys, come on. Get with the times.
It was actually very, very funny. So have a listen, everybody.
Marty, what did you do by yourself this week?
Well, out of hibernation, not only did I go to one comp, I went to 2 comps this week. So I went to Bayside as well. I had some good games. The machines there were a lot better, I will say. And, long story short, I was up against Jordan, and, I put up on some respectable scores. So, look, I put up like a 93 million on Metallica, for example, and, Jordan, I was first player. Jordan got, like 87. I'm like, ooh, okay, I'm close. And then Lex, who's Daniel Luth, then gets 99 million. And it's like, oh, okay, so you've taken a point off me. We played The Simpsons there, which was only marginally better than the one at Pixel. And, my first ball, I put up a respectable 15 million. It was a respectable score. And then everybody just passed me because my next 2 balls were terrible. So it ended up coming to Iron Man on the last game. And again, I was out of the gates, had a really good first ball, had a fantastic second ball, and was absolutely leading going into ball 3. But I made a mistake. So on that ball 2, I was 1 shot away from getting do or die. But I just got caught up in getting bogeys. So I kept doing bogeys, and then it drained, and everyone came up to me after and said, oh, you had 1 more shot for do or die. And I'm like, oh, shit, no, I didn't. I was doing bogeys instead. So then Jordan got on, and Jordan, of course, got do or die, got a 32 million jackpot, and just won the game.
Game over.
It was up to me. Going into ball 3, I had nothing lit. So I managed to get Whiplash multi-ball started and squandered that, and it was over. So I think I got 29 million. So that meant I came 3rd, and Jordan won, of course, and Lex was 2nd. And Stacey
Jordan won. What?
Yeah, Jordan won. Whoa, who would have thought? Yeah, but I will say he did win, but it wasn't like he was out of the gates and was always going to win. This was a bit of a competition. I think we gave him a bit of a run for his money.
But that's what people always say, but he always ends up winning because he's last. He never chokes. He's like the anti-choker. His third balls are always like, it doesn't matter what he's on.
Yeah.
Like that time that I played Doctor Who against him and I put up that massive score and I was just like, oh my God. Everyone's like, oh my God, you're going to get him. No, he destroyed me.
Yep.
Anyway.
That's what he does. He plays the long game. He knows what he needs to do. He's very calm, doesn't get anxious, and just goes for it and just nails his shots. And it's, you watch and you go, come on, you've got to drain. And it's like, how did that get in the in lane? It was going all the way out, and that's just what happens. He's very good at predicting where the ball's going to go, and that's the key to becoming a phenomenal pinball player.
Yeah. What else did you do, Matty?
Well, I streamed Hobbit. And I streamed, knowing that we were going to interview Keith this week, I thought I'd stream Hobbit before the interview and after the interview.
And?
I enjoyed it before the interview more than I did after.
That doesn't make sense.
I don't know why. I think it's because, it's like what you were saying about Balrog. It's like, do you know what? I'm actually just, I'm probably happier being blissfully unaware of what goes into creating rules, and that it's Wheel of Fortune 2 or whatever. I just want it to be magical. So, but I've got to say, I hadn't played it for about a month. It's the geometry on that game is actually a lot of fun. It actually shoots quite well.
Can I give you a tip, Marty?
Sure.
crank it up, okay? You like your Star Trek nice and fast. I was looking at your stream yesterday. Your Hobbit is so floaty, and it's not a floaty game if you literally just keep on cranking it
I
up.
have jacked it up though. It's a floating
Higher.
All right.
Jack
It's going to have to go on blocks.
until the balls fly off the rails. That's when you put it down a little bit. Just keep on jacking it up.
All right.
It's so much more fun.
Okay.
Trust me.
I'll do that. What
My
about
week.
your week?
Yeah. If anyone's still listening 3 hours into the podcast, my competition is still like 3 weeks away, but I decided to try and make Star Trek hard enough. So systematically, kind of one by one, I started to kind of do things to try and decrease the ball time. And I came to the conclusion that it is pretty much impossible to make Star Trek hard. You know how everyone says like, "Oh, Lord of the Rings is a terrible tournament game." I want everyone to replace Lord of the Rings with Star Trek because, like, every shot is so safe on that. And I mean, the things I did, like I decreased Klingon multi-ball to, I put it to extra hard, so you have to hit it so many times, and the multi-ball save it down for that. Vengeance multi-ball, there is no menu option to increase the amount of hits in the middle for Vengeance multi-ball, so it's always defaults to 5, and that's what it is. And you can get 3 easily by hitting those side targets. And 5 seconds is the easiest you can make. The hardest you can make that multi-ball. Put rescue kickback to extra hard, remove the outlanes, remove the post, took all the rubbers off there. No ball save, no extra balls, and I made the slings as sensitive as I could and increased the power to the slings to try and encourage side-by-side action. And this morning I kind of tested that out, and I got 250 million and had like a 15-minute game. I also decreased the mode time to like 15 seconds, so it forces you to kind of make the 2 hardest shots in the games. The last setting, which was suggested to me by Steve Bowden, because I kind of asked him, I asked Bruce first, and Bruce just laughed at me. I said, "How do you make Star Trek hard?" And he just laughed and said, "You don't. Like, it's impossible." And Steve Bowden just kind of gave me a million suggestions, like, "Yep, try that. And he said, put the mode start on extra hard. And I gave it one game, and it's so weird. You start the game, and nothing is lit. Like, the playfield is not lit up at all. And you hardly ever see Star Trek like that, because you're always starting in a mode. And even when you're out of a mode, you have that one insert lit, because obviously you already played one, and the 2 side shots are flashing. Literally, you plunge the ball, and the only thing that's lit is the GI and the 3 lock side targets. So then you have to kind of hit that shot once, and then it lights the mission. So I don't even know if I want it in the competition now, because it is so far removed from what a default Star Trek is. It's almost like not fair to everyone playing it, because you're playing this game you've never played before.
Have you put a big, thick rubber on your post?
Which post? The left orbit? Is that what you're talking about?
Any of them?
No, because I don't want to make it, because
you don't want to toughen up your game. Like that's what you got to do with that game, is to make.
Like Star Trek is flow though, right?
Yeah,
so making it not flow. I mean, it's not like AFM where you can block that one shot and that changes the whole strategy of the game. Every shot is equally as important, right? And they're all. None of the shots are that much easier than the others.
I'm not saying close them off completely, but I'm just saying make them a little bit harder. So it
would just make the game miserable, and
yeah,
I've actually been playing it so well while making it tougher that I don't. That's why Star Trek is good, because the shots feel good.
Yeah,
take away the shots, and it's just the worst fucking game ever, because it's like they made the first lot of missions and with the away team and everything. And they're like, yeah, fuck it. Like, let's just do whatever we want for the second and third. It is like I got into the second level missions, and they're cool because they're worth more points. But I don't know. They got to make up. They still need some extra stuff for that. I don't know. And I found a weird bug where, because I've got locks on hards, I'm not sure if it's a bug or not. But if you have lock lit for Kobayashi, so for Klingon multi-ball, and then Kobayashi Maru happens, it kind of gets rid of that lock, and you have to go for Kobayashi Maru. When you get out of Kobayashi Maru, that lock is no longer qualified if you're on hard settings. So you have to qualify that lock again. Is that a bug? Like, it should be still lit, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
You don't really care. The second thing I did this week, I was watching Ron Hallett playing Globetrotters on Twitch for the Path of Play.
Yes, I was watching that too.
Yeah, and he hit the spinner, and it just kept on spinning forever. And I'm like, what the shit? Like, how do you do that? And he went and got, he's like, Teflon lube. And I was taking the kids out to a park, and it was right next to Bunnings Warehouse, which is like it's like a monopolized hardware store in Australia. It's the biggest hardware warehouse. So I went there and I said, Teflon lube, please. 1 Teflon lube. And they looked on their computer and like, we don't sell Teflon lube. I'm like, fuck me. Like, if Bunnings doesn't have it, then who the hell has it? So I bought silicone lube, and I don't even know if it's like meant to be good or not, but I wasn't going all the way there to buy no lube. I lubed up all my spinners, Marty, and I did. I fucking lubed them up so good.
Lubed them up proper.
Yeah. And I didn't follow the exact instructions that Ron gave me, because I was using a different lube, because he said you grab some sandpaper and sand it down, like his maximum lubage. Mine was literally just
Is lubage actually a word?
It is today.
Okay.
I just sprayed the sides quickly, and man, it makes a big difference. Like almost double the amount of spins in like a 5-second just spray, and double the amount of spins. And on some of the games, it doesn't make a difference at all. I purposely got into Crank It Up on Metallica and did Fade to Black.
Yeah,
and
spinners.
Usually in Fade to Black, you hit it once, and it goes in the pop bumpers. You kind of get like a 1 on average.
Yep.
Now I was doing 2 on average, so it changes the game around. Especially the old games like Sea Witch. I know this is like a fucking boring conversation because we're 3 hours into the podcast, but Marty, do you know why old spinners spin more than new spinners?
I don't know, but is it because they're actually sort of weighted?
I think the weighting is the same, right? But it's to do with the resistance, right? Like it'll there's resistance for everything, right? There's no perpetual motion thing, like it doesn't exist. Air, steel on steel, right? So your Hobbit spinners are actually like the best spinners on the market at the moment. Good. Do you know why? Because there's no switch that's slowing. There's no micro switch that's slowing it down. It's an opto, and it's a very sensitive opto. So if I lube them up, like they'll just spin nonstop, right?
Right. Okay.
I'll bring my lube over, Marty. Yes. The old machines like Sea Witch, it uses this kind of like this crank system, and the leaf switches that it uses are so light that's why they just kind of keep on going.
Yeah. Okay.
Micro switches that they use on current machines, they suck. And I guess it doesn't matter for most games because spinners are just kind of there for the sake of it. But on some games it does. Like Iron Maiden is using spinners well. The Hobbit uses it well. Lube up your spinners, guys. And a couple of people on the weekend said it's cheating. It's not, because everyone's playing the same game.
Hey, no, look, just a bit of a side note, just now that you mentioned Iron Maiden. So I was looking at how they released like the rules before it came out?
Yeah.
I just want to know, I mean, I don't know of another machine, and you're the rules guy, so you'll tell me this, but one thing I knew about it is that you've got effectively you've got a skill shot,
mm-hmm.
and then you can actually do a super skill shot.
Yeah, and adds like ball saver time and all that kind of stuff. That is so cool.
That is like, what? How simple is that? Like, is there any other machines where a super skill shot gives you extended ball save?
Keith Alwyn has been like sitting there playing pinball his whole life, and he's had all these rules, and I don't think he's the type of guy that kind of like me that like, oh hey Scott Denisi, you should do this. Hey, you should do this. He's just saving it up in his head. He opens up his little locket diary and he writes, Keith Alwyn, just in case I ever become a pinball designer. And he's got his little book, and he finally got to open the book and implement all of his good shit. So.
Well, because the reason why I was saying that is because, again, when I was playing Hobbit last night, the skill shots on that are, even though I think there's 4 different types, they're all pretty arbitrary when it comes to points. So therefore, just go for the lock shots because you're going for lock.
Well, did you know that if you don't change what it gives you, it's worth more?
But what's it worth?
More. Like there's a multiplier attached to it. So like if it tells you hit that like roaming target up the top on the dwarf area, and you don't change it, it'll be worth like say double or something.
Yeah, okay.
But if it's on lock and you change it to the dwarf targets, it's worth half.
Okay.
So if you not that it matters too much.
No, but I understand. But imagine if it was. So I'm not saying Keith. I'm not saying. Well, which Keith am I talking to? Kiefer. I'm not saying change it because of this, but if it was that you get to if you do those drop targets, the dwarf targets, and the targets go from right to left, and it's the last one, which is the D target, is supposed to be the most difficult to get. If each of those targets increasingly gave you more of a ball save, or a ball save at all, then that's actually something to go for regardless of points. Because I think, an extra 5 seconds or even an extra 10 seconds of ball save is far more than points that you would get in a skill shot these days anyway.
But all these pinball coders, they can't just copy someone else now. That's Keith's rule now, right?
No,
so the next person that does it, it's going to be like, oh, you're copying Keith.
No, but I understand it. But that's kind of where I was sort of saying that, something as simple as that just really stands out, and you go, why hasn't that been done before? That's such a simple thing to do. Okay,
have you ever plunged your Hobbit, the ball on your Hobbit, and it goes all the way into the kick out and then kicks back out?
Yes.
Yeah, so have I. And Keith Johnson said that he might implement the Congo rule, like that's the super duper skill shot thing.
Right, okay.
But then he never did it. I think I remember him reading, and this I might be misquoting, like, it's going to be done before in Congo. Yeah, like 20-something years ago, 25 years ago. So I don't think anyone's going to be like, oh my God, Keith Johnson copied whoever. I don't even know who did the rules for that game. Anyway, one more thing fuck it, this is a long podcast. When Keith Elwood did that interview with Nate Shivers, right?
Yep.
I can't tell if he has such a dry sense of humor, right? I can't tell if he's like taking the piss out of the question or if he's answering truthfully, right? Like, I think Nate asked something like, do you have all these ideas backlogged, for your future games? He's like, yeah, my next game is going to have a really unique ramp you've never seen before. And Nate was like, oh, okay, cool. But I can't tell if he was like, he's dumb, like, as in, like, yeah, it's going to, like, it's never been seen before.
No, but
or
you know what?
I can't tell.
Tell you, on Saturday night when we were at the pinball meet, someone came up to me and said, I'm looking forward to what Keith Elwin does next. Apparently, he's got this really unique ramp that's never been done before.
So it's out there.
So that's honestly, whether it's a joke or not, people now think it's real. So you better deliver on this ramp idea, Keith.
Oh my God! I mean, we could just message him and ask him, but I don't know what to believe. I don't know what to believe. I think Keith is almost like a professional level troll. Like every time he mentions Tim Sexton, he's like Twippy. Oh gosh! Last but not least, me and Marty have started a Melbourne Pinball Tournaments Facebook page. Because basically we just kind of want to try and do our bit to grow the tournament community in Melbourne. So we'll link that in the show notes. And basically we're trying to make it run kind of in conjunction with pinballscore.com, which is Luke's page, just to help people and alert people of when tournaments in Melbourne are starting. Yeah. Just your one-stop place for results and what I want.
So you can put reminders in, right? If you say we'll put up the events, you can say that you're going to the event and then Facebook will remind you.
Exactly. And it's also a good place just for everyone to kind of talk socially about it because, like, I was messaging you saying, are you going to beat Jordan? Are you going to beat Jordan when I wasn't there? And I said, like, just get someone to Facebook Live it. Like, I want to see this. I don't want, like, your text updates every 5 minutes. If someone kind of goes live on that page, then I guess everyone in the Melbourne scene gets to watch, the grand final.
Yeah. As long as I'm not in the final, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So, there you go. Are we done?
Yeah, fuck the mailbag.
We haven't got any mail this week anyway, so...
Yes, we do. What are you talking about?
No, we'll save it all for next week. There'll be shitloads next week.
You fucking lie. You Andrew Heighway that.
That's what it is.
There's no mail in there. It's
That's right.
Fucking eight emails.
Is that what the new meaning to take the highway?
Oh, take the high roads, the highway roads. Just fucking lie through your teeth.
Correct.
Protect your non-existent integrity. You can check us out on our website, head2headpinball.com. Over there, you will find all of our links to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that shit. I don't know what else we are, Marty.
Just get in touch with us. We love hearing from
41
you guys.
episodes in, and we still can't say it properly. All right, guys.
All right, guys. We'll speak to you next week.
See ya.
Bye.